Call roll here. Mayor Pro Tem McClung, Councilmember Swenson,
Present.
Councilmember Moses,
Present.
Councilmember Cargill,
Present.
Councilmember Dennis J. Morton. Present. All right, and Carlos is here. Come and give us the notification, please, sir. I'll be glad to. And lead us in the pledges afterward.
Again, thank you for the honor to be able to come and pray with you all. So would you bow your heads and let us pray. Almighty God, we give you thanks for your goodness, your grace, and your mercy. Today we bow before you as a city, as a community, as family and friends, to acknowledge our need of you and your grace and the way you work in our lives. Lord God, we come before you now praying a blessing on the leadership here. Thank you for those who are willing to lead. May we remember to say a prayer before we speak a word of criticism. May we be remembered to pray for one another and to look for the good intentions in each of our hearts. We also pray, Lord God, for our desperate need for rain. We pray for the healing of this drought. We also pray for those who are struggling with things that we just hear about as California fires are going. Family and friends are in need. We pray, Lord God, for there to be a sense of community and for us to be there for each other. Thank you for the blessing of this great city of Blanco and for the people here. Bless this community as we seek to honor you. And we pray all this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Now let's join together and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. And thanks. It's written there. Okay. One Thank you. Alrighty. Announcements. I'd like to ask this. Heartbreaking the other day. Blanco's lost a real treasure. Former Mayor Ryan Trimble passed away right before Christmas. Christmas Eve. I had just spent time with him the week before. If you didn't get to know him, he was a heck of a guy. Colorful, always friendly and engaging, sharp as a tack, always encouraging. Really grew fond of him. Right. It's not much, but we wanted to pay tribute in honor of his service. He served as mayor from 1991 to 1997. I understand he's the reason our roads are paved. And he did a lot of good things, and just wanted to thank you for that. Extend our blessings to you this time. If you need anything from this picture. Thank you, Tucker.
I looked in the minutes, so
She looked in the minutes, she said.
I think it was 94 to 9.
If we have to correct it, we'll correct
No,
it.
that's 6 years,
There's 6
whatever.
years.
It's in the 90s. Thank you very much. And Ryan loved Blanco, so.
Thank you. Yeah, it was quite a shock. A lot, right? A couple more announcements. We're still on stage 3. Drought restrictions. Our region is in a long-term drought right now. So conserve your water, and burn ban is still on, I think, till February 11th. So don't burn anything. I think we have a few people signed up for public comments. Let's see here, starting with Eric Burkhart. Come on up. I've got 3 minutes.
I know there's a full agenda tonight, so I'm going to take a couple minutes. I just wanted to talk about last year's family fair. When we first heard that there was going to be a Founders Day, Red and I come up and realized we needed to have a streetscape table set up. And thanks to Brian, we got a table. delivered and set up. Much appreciated that. We really didn't know what to expect. We knew the people that were involved. Amy Arnold, Kristen Brewster, Greg Best, Andrew. And so we had an idea that it was going to be really well organized and a nice event. But it was new for all of us in the first one. So we really didn't know what to expect. We got there. I read that outline with Amy where our table was going to be and where she put us in a prime location because right next to us was Candy. And next to Candy was Dennis. And across the pathway was Laura. And then the Methodist Church was right there, and then the Boy Scouts, and then down the path, the Junior Newhouse, the Stacy Counts, and the Cacklebush. And it was like being around a bunch of friends. And as the day progressed, and it got pretty crowded, there was 9 people at our table, of course, one. And I got up and walked around, and I saw people who I knew hadn't really been getting along lately, talking to each other, and laughing, and smiling. I saw people who I knew hadn't spoken in years, hugging, and talking about old times. And that is the perfect reflection of what Founders Day should be about. It's perfect tribute to the pioneers that created this community. It's really, you know, those of you that know me here, there are people in here that I'm fortunate and blessed enough to call good friends. Okay? And I love this community. Those of you in here that know me know that I'm a bit of an amateur historian. Way back to the Indian raids, to the Martin Sport, to the 1856 planting of Pittsburgh, Hayden Colony, evolving in Waco, Middletown becoming Twin Sisters, the theft of our courthouse by Johnson City, which I'm still a little bit, but you know, we'll move on from there. There's so much history, and the people that built this community, there's more history in this small community than any other small community I'm familiar with in this state. And the people that built this community, they were made of a different kind of a metal than, you know, not to criticize young people today, but I don't see how the younger generations could ever handle the things that they had to handle. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I done?
You can
30 seconds.
20, go for it.
Okay. Last year, what was so impressive to me was the cooperation and the compromise between the city, the business owners in the historic district, the county courthouse, and the chamber. They worked together and got something accomplished that was an incredible day for all of us. And I saw you dancing. And I'm so pleased to know that that's happening again this year. And I am really optimistic that this year's Founders Day is going to be really, really special day for us again. I hope I see all of you there.
Thank you so much. Tanya Martinez.
My name is Tanya Martinez. I'm reaching out to ask for support for Blanco's Founders Day celebration. Try not to get emotional because it's sensitive to me. This cherished event not only was successful last year, but also brought fun, joy, and a sense of togetherness to our community. For me, it holds an even deeper significance. It was profoundly important to a longtime Blanco resident, Stella Irene Ziegler West, someone I love dearly. Stella was born in Sophie. Stella was born in a small house just outside of Blanco on September 25th, 1930, which was later moved to where it still stands on Cherry Street. I think it's Cherry Street. She lived, loved, and celebrated life in Blanco. She had her daughter at the Blanco courthouse, and her connection to this town ran deep. Stella absolutely loved Blanco. Sadly, she passed away on July 24th of last year at the age of 93. And with her passing, our community lost yet another beloved resident who embodied the spirit of Blanco. I wholeheartedly support continuing Founder's Day to honor generations like Stella's. Those hardworking, salt-of-the-earth people who helped build Blanco and pave the way for those that know it as the vibrant community it is today. Their legacy deserves recognition, and events like Founder's Day provide an opportunity to celebrate them all. As Stella's caregiver, one of my greatest joys was sharing Blanco news with her and listening to her recount stories of Blanco's rich history. She never failed to bring up the courthouse, still holding a grudge against Johnson City for still in the courthouse. Despite her humor and candor, she had an unwavering love for this town. One of my fondest memories with Stella was when we shared a moment with Mayor Mike Arnold. She told him her wish to attend one more street dance before she passed. And thanks to his and the community's efforts, she got her wish at Founder's Day, dancing a dance with Mike Arnold. The memory stays with me as a statement to the spirit of the event and the love Stella had for Blanco. I urge you to support and help continue Founder's Day, not just for Stella, but in honor of everyone, past and present, who has made this town so special. These people, their stories, their love for Blanco are the heart of our community. Let's ensure this celebration continues to thrive and remains a safe, enjoyable tradition for generations to come. Please support a request to block off streets for Founder's Day, allowing us to honor the legacy of pioneers like Stella and to create new memories in their honor. Thank you for your consideration and support.
Thank you so much. Amy, I think it's an Arnold.
Not working tonight.
Oh, no. Kristen.
Okay, now we're on.
Oh.
Push it back around. I know. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I also want to talk about Founder's Day, but a little bit from a different perspective. I really would like to approach the council and ask this year to see if we can get you guys involved, perhaps, with a booth. I sit in these meetings, y'all see me, all of them, the town halls that are drawn out, sometimes they're boring. I listen to you guys talk about how sometimes you have poor communication with the citizens, lack of engagement in some of the meetings. This would not be one of them. But in previous ones, where there's 4 or 5 of us here and you're trying to figure out, is it the time of day? Is it, how can we communicate it to the public? And I've heard you guys talk about you really need a pretty serious public education campaign coming up about this potential bond that you guys want to put on the ballot. So I really believe Founder's Day would be an excellent opportunity for you guys to speak directly to the citizens. Come prepared with your bond committee and charts and graphs or whatever to answer all of their questions, and use that as part of your education that you're trying to reach out to the community to get your information that they need to be educated so they can vote. So instead of waiting for voters to come to you to these meetings that are often not timed during working man's hours, go to them. Have the CMX committee guys out there at a booth as well. And we'd love to just see you guys get more engaged with the citizens. That's a great place to be, as you can hear. It was a big event, and that's where they come. So you guys go to them. Hopefully we can improve the voter turnout and participation in city government. So March 22, no mark your calendars. Book yourselves to be there. So thank you.
We need Trish.
All the kinds of people get on your side I'm here for down today, such a flash, that's year. And it wasn't taking the use of me, pretty decent for a first year, first time to do that. And years ago, started out with a fiddle fest and also played for the EMS and fire department, all that street. Support those things. And, so anyway, it was a big deal and a joy for the community. And, you know, you can get any differences you have. It's fun to have fun. And so anyway, I thank you for doing that and I hope that you continue with it. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Kenneth Welch.
7 o'clock.
Kenneth Welch, county resident, and Jeremy Blanco. There are several items on tonight's agenda that seem to have popped up without any prior discussion in public session, even if you have recently held regular public workshops to open the line. In the last such meeting, a significant amount of time was spent discussing the need for open communication. Item number 7 is discussion about the possible change from city manager to the government. I understand and I cannot solicit petition signatures following the city facility, but I hope you will support the change. Those of you in attendance that are legally registered voters in the city are eligible to sign the petition. Changing to a city manager form of government is a matter that the public must decide, not the body. Such a change will allow the body to function more as a board of directors instead of an operating committee, thus allowing the city manager and the staff to run the day-to-day activities of the city. Issues discussed by this council are often not thought about because the intentions of the limitations of the Open Meetings Act places on discussions outside of open meetings. Requiring a professional city manager and the staff to fully research all aspects of the issues will allow him or her to bring fully developed concepts to you for your consideration. It will also support continuity as the council membership changes. I wholeheartedly support the concept, and if necessary, will be presenting a petition with the requisite number of signatures to ensure that the public can vote on the matter. Item number 9 suggests restructuring of the streetscape committee. The committee needs additional members, but their biggest need is support from this group. I urge you to fund streetscape using either the expected GLO grant or funds from your already approved certificates of obligation. Sidewalks outside this building are a disgrace, a safety hazard, and are not compliant with ADA standards and are an embarrassment to the city. The streetscape plan will address that issue and much more. I've written to you about the proposed agreement with Blanco Heritage. I am opposed to such an arrangement. I certainly welcome outside grant funds for Blanco, but the city should develop all projects and then ask for grant funds. The proposal puts the cart before the horse, hands over control of Blanco projects to outsiders with priorities that may be distinctly different from those of the residents. Additionally, the public has not been told of the identities of the friends of Blanco that desire to fund Blanco's project. Item 10 again poses the question of communications from TxDOT regarding the possibility of US 281 bypass. There is no reason for the body to communicate with TxDOT until the latest option presented on January 29th. Unless members of this group have other information that hasn't been shared with TPAC the public, please table this issue. If something has changed, then inform the public and reaffirm your previous recommendation.
Thank you. Michael Etheridge.
I'm here to address the council. There's been a lot of discussion about cost on the bypass because not 65. And you just let everybody know I'm completely opposed to cut a piece of property half into put bypass in. It's been in our family since 1914, and I own it now, but it has been in operation for 13 years. So, and not only that, if we got put in the city limits, 2010. They finally moved the city limits down about 2 weeks ago. For all those years, we've been sitting in the city limit. They took my whole country, over 121 acres, in case we might want to do something with it. Well, I intend for it to stay as ranch and farm. Not for a bypass. We've already got 100-foot right away going across the power line. Never done in 1960. Yeah, that's what. Our property goes to Cinder River also. Plus down there at 1413, you know, that's probably there too. But that was, we had one down there that was destroyed. About half, where the bypass would be, that's actually in the flood zone. And if you know that, the state of things come out and take a look at it. In order to get all that out of the flood zone, state W. Spend about $20 million for a bridge crossing. It's something, I don't know why they don't take a look at it first. And you think about it, kind of put something across.
Yeah, thank you so much. Julie Alexander. You have flashlight.
I know, I can see my words. I want to address the proposed highway bypass and express my concerns about its potential impact on the city of Blanco. A massive concrete highway bypass would significantly detract from the aesthetic beauty of our community. The proposed monstrous highway bridge over our cherished Blanco River would bring both noise and visual pollution, destroying the natural beauty of some of the most picturesque land at the edges of our city limits. This development would compromise the quaint, small-town charm that we as the Planning and Zoning Committee and City Council have worked so diligently to protect. While we acknowledge that growth is inevitable, our city has been proactive in planning for this growth in a way that preserves the character and culture of Blanco. Through the dedicated efforts of our volunteers, we have implemented a grid system within the city limits, updated the sign ordinance, and we will be working to update the zoning regulations. Additionally, we have established a comprehensive master plan committee to ensure thoughtful and sustainable development. I am here not only as a concerned citizen, but also to represent Mr. Palmer's project at Le Domaine at Riviere-Blanc. This development is poised to be a tremendous asset to the city of Blanco, offering an ideal Texas Hill Country lifestyle. It features opportunities for horseback riding, vineyards and wine tasting, river recreation, events, and new culinary experiences for both locals and tourists. The type of resident this community attracts will contribute significantly to our local economy. They will shop at our grocery stores, dine at our restaurants, and patronize our gas stations. The project will bring additional tax revenue to our county and school district and may even attract new business owners and volunteers for our city. I would be delighted to arrange a tour of this beautiful development for any council members or citizens, so you can witness firsthand the benefits this project will bring to our community. I personally believe that the bypass should remain outside of our ETJ. This is essential at preserving the character and beauty of Blanco while accommodating future growth responsibly while protecting Mr. Palmer's vineyard community. In light of the proposed highway bypass, I urge the council to consider placing the location of the bypass on the ballot in May. This would allow citizens to voice their preference regarding whether the bypass should be located inside or outside of our ETJ. Such a vote would provide valuable guidance for TxDOT to consider. Finally, I strongly encourage the council to resubmit the resolution to TxDOT, advocating for the bypass to remain outside of our ETJ. This approach would align with our shared commitment to preserving the character and beauty of Blanco while accommodating future growth in a responsible and thoughtful manner. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wayman Lightfoot.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Lightfoot. I live in 334 Sunset Ridge here in Blanco. I have been told in the not too distant past that Blanco City Council sent a letter to TxDOT stating that the city would not be in favor of any bypass which cross land within the city limits or ETJ. I have a question, was such a letter sent? And if so, can I get a copy? Is this city council in favor of that position? And if so, I would think it'd be prudent to send a new letter reaffirming that position to TxDOT. I personally am not in favor of any bypass which would be within the city limits and or ETJ. I've also been told that certain members of this council met with officials with TxDOT. I was told that only certain members of council were invited and that other members were being left out. I hope this is not just a false rumor, but I would appreciate this contribution. Thank you.
All righty, that was it. It's I signed up for the hearing. Okay, so we're gonna open and close the public hearing. We do have an ad hoc committee presentation, street safety committee. Red Mark.
Hi, it's been a while since I've been up here, so I thought it's the ideal time to have another report and get y'all to go back and where it came from. I always give history lessons on where it came from and where we're going. But we were where we were right now, we were expecting a large donation and we were ready to receive that large donation. And if we got that large donation, we were ready to have our challenge met. This is part of our fundraiser was to have a challenge. And I think that y'all probably read that in the newspaper. But then I got a call about item 9 on the agenda. And I was not totally unaware of this, so it was throwing me off and I'm not going to give a report because I don't know what I'm talking about right now. I don't know what this is about. I was also really happy on number 11 because I had begged for 10, 11, 12 years that we can PDA grant. And Marty had said that it's out of report that we were going to be able to put in for that. And so what I'm going to do is we were planning a lot of fundraising. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie Wright, who's on our fundraising committee with Eric Burkhart and Moses Hall. And she's going to tell you about some of the fundraising that we were going to do. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, my name is Stephanie Wright. I'm not speaking as a reporter for the Blanco County News because I do cover these meetings for the Blanco County News. So I want to make that clear that this is me speaking as a private citizen and also as a member of the Street Safety Committee. I was also a little surprised to see agenda item number 9 that there was going to be this new Heritage Foundation because I hadn't heard from anyone on the council about that. But you know, other people in the community reached out to me and let me know take a good look at that. So I'll be interested to hear more about that as we get into it. On the fundraising, we've been doing a couple of mixers. We started one in November, and then we didn't have one in December, but we're going to have one on Thursday. It's open to the public. It's from 5 to 7. It's at the 419. There'll be snacks. There's an opportunity to see some of the sketches that Sue Ann Pemberton has been working on, and also see some pictures of those deplorable sidewalks from top off. A little public shaming, never hurt anyone. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is that we have a mass mailer that we're working on. Obviously, everyone knows that Streetscape's finances are pretty dire. So a lot of the things that we'd like to do, which is grants, we can't really do without matching funds. So it'll be interesting to see how we can move forward and actually help get this project going. Because I do think that there are people in the community we would love to see it come to fruition. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
What did you say was the date for the next week?
It's Thursday, so that's the 16th, I think. Yeah,
What's the time of that?
5 to 7.
At 419.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, we have City Hall presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll get this set up here. Okay. So city admin report, January. We have new finance directors. You want to stand up? I'm just gonna, you'll meet him in the future. He'll be making presentations, but tonight I'll be doing that. The Jose Martinez, his extensive private industry experience, 5 years teaching high school math, which I'm sure is tougher than this job, and 5 years experience at City of San Antonio in an accounting role, and he has an MBA. So we're really excited and really lucky to have him. So we are upon this election season. It officially opens just the applicants coming in and making applications January 15th. It closes at 5 p.m. sharp on February 14th. Easy to remember because that is Valentine's Day. So look forward to that. It's always nice to know who our new boss is going to be. So there's that. Getting a little more serious, with our hearts and prayers go to the folks in California and other places. And I think seeing what's happening there, we want to start focusing on infrastructure and public safety. I feel that the council always has had that, and so have we. But we're going to refocus on that, and we'll kind of talk about a few things that we're going to be looking at doing in the very near future. And we have funding for it. So safety on Pecan Bridge, we did get a TxDOT did review the bridge, and there were a few things they asked for these safety bumpers. You've probably seen them. We will continue to focus on safety. We also, you've seen that there's been some work done just in pre-clearing on the rock wall. We will continue working on that. It'll take a couple of months. There are some things that we're going to work on as far as one historic commission, making sure that property owners and everybody has a say in how that is done. We are putting a retaining wall in there, and there's funding for that. Again, focus on safety, infrastructure. We're installing generators as per the CO that we just approved at the PD, and we're doing portable generators for public works facilities for different things. When things start, when we lose power, we actually have a portable generator. So we're actually starting to order those things. As you may know, there are 10 underperforming fire hydrants. Underperforming, so we're probably going for that's been for a while. We've been replacing them. We're also going to work at having a program where we check those leaks. And the roller, you got the roller for pothole repair. The weather will get is better now, and it's going to be better next week. Hopefully, we'll start seeing these guys on there and actually doing more pothole repair stuff that we did earlier. We're starting to degrade a little bit. And some future new projects. We're talking later tonight about the new fence of the water plant, doing that. We're going to talk about replacement of pumps and mains to the water plant, so we can be fully operational. And then I think later on we'll be having future discussions and just new discussions on the bond for the future improvements of the state. And so that's kind of the new focus that we're looking at. Any questions or staff? Thank you very much.
Moving on, finance department. I guess Dana, you're there. Take a look at this. How's that welcome aboard?
Okay, first of all, thank you and council, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to be here. That we all have for a short period of time. I'm confident that Jose's going to step in and pick up and hopefully be able to make it Finances, we're a quarter of the way down already for the year. We've got 3 more to go. Looking at the general fund, we're way below our 25%. On revenues and expenses, mind you, our active loan taxes are 100%, and that don't reflect on here, from the December. And in the water and sewer fund, we are over on the expense side. That's due to the water treatment plant, but we're still making all of our adjustments for that, which will come to COs and the information we're going to have with that here in the near future. Other than that, I don't know that I have a whole lot of other report. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
On it's other expenses under enterprise,
Yes.
32%. Just curious what,
Yes, it's how much?
232% of
Or
budget.
323.
I'm sorry.
I'm making sure I'm in the right way, that I'm looking at the right one. That's,
Anyway, it's really high.
that's the water, that's the water treatment plant.
That's the water treatment
Yes.
plant one? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was looking through. Anything over 25%.
Yes.
I made a note. That was
A
quite
big
a
one,
bit.
yes.
So, okay.
Thank you. Police Department, Chief Thornhill. On that.
This is the one that's open.
What?
Just
Is it
asking
open?
about the report.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, I appreciate your time tonight. I want to address a few issues that have come up. Let's start with the Christmas Day Parade. While it was overwhelming this year for the Christmas Day turnout, parade turnout, I have to recommend to the council that we not allow the Christmas Day Parade to occur on the same weekend as market days. Because I felt like there was high risk of danger to commuters that are not familiar with the Christmas parade. And we did actually have 2 active Christmas parade, motor vehicle accidents, and that was also due to increased traffic on the 281. Unfortunately, I also had bad news. I thought I was gonna get up here tonight and say we're fully staffed. Unfortunately, Lieutenant McMahon has been offered a position that she cannot pass up with the state, so she will be taking a employee's job with the Attorney General's office, which is ideal for her at her age. And even though it's going to be sad to lose her, it's going to be a great opportunity for her and her family in the future. We did see a small uptick in crime, but not inside the city. It was us backing up county on county calls. That was up significantly. We only took 13 more calls this month than we did last month in the city. We took 40, I think it was 46 calls outside the city for the county. And that just illustrates the downturn in law enforcement officers availability. So we need to work on retention and recruiting a little harder. Other than that, traffic accidents were down. Even though traffic enforcement was also down, which is unusual.
That flashing light sign sure helps, you know. Which we could have on both sides of town.
Yeah. And just to circle back to a project that I'm still currently working on, it's the lighting survey. And so far I've been at at least 3 places where we're going to need additional streetlights. But I am carefully reviewing all the options for minimizing the lighting that would affect night skies. Okay.
Chief, thank you so much. Anybody have any? Great work, thank you. Moving on, consent agenda, there's two items. There's the minutes of the special meeting and the minutes of the regular meeting.
I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda. I'll move that we pass the consent agenda as approved as presented.
Okay, there's a second. I'll second the second. All in favor? All right, thank you so much. New business number one, this is the short-term rental permit application on Greenlawn Parkway. When is the applicant here?
The applicant is here, so any questions of Bill Baltimore or Dan Baltimore, the Bill, they can answer this question. This is a request for STR 1312 Greenlawn Parkway. It's an existing model home. I don't know if it's a great picture of it, but that's the one on Greenlawn Parkway that was built as a model home. It's been there for a while, so this would actually give it a purpose instead of it being there, and really explain that. But it is, it meets all the requirements. There are no short-term rentals or non-occupied, non-owner occupied units around there. So, and it meets all the requirements. Let's see if there is one person that spoke out against this. Other than that, I'll go ahead and tell you the recommendation. Kingsley recommends approval of the request in STR, the city council. Questions of staff or the applicant?
Tonight. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve item number one.
Is there a second? Discussion. All in favor? All right, that's unanimously. Thank you.
Sorry, I missed the public hearing. It looked clear right by me.
That's okay.
No, I didn't realize that's what.
Six times wasn't necessary. All right. Okay, item number two. This is Founder's Day. I'm gonna ask up Miss Betty Jones. If you don't know, Miss Betty was born in the courthouse. She was in
79.
79, and yesterday was her birthday.
That's all.
Feel that old, they clap for every year. Oh wait, so what you got?
Okay. I am Betty Jones, the founder and current board member and vice president of Blackonians and Friends. With this sponsorship of many generous local businesses, our 501c4 nonprofit organization work to put on the first annual Blanco Founders Day in March of 2024. The event centered around community street dance, like the ones held on the square in years past. I have fond memories of these dances. This year's event includes artists Bobby Mack, Jesse Stratton Band, and Middle of the Fiddle. This will be Middle of the Fiddle's last time to play together publicly. We are very honored they chose our event. As we did last year, we will have free kids zone, community partners booths, food and drink options, local nonprofit, and resource groups are not charged for it. Provided feedback last year. It was an excellent way to get the word out about their organizations. Our food and drink options are all local, including some serving as fundraisers for organizations like Blanco Youth Football League and Project Graduation. This year we will add Blanco made artisans market for local artisans to sell
and show their talent. You want to take over? Okay.
The event is geared towards local folks to celebrate their beloved Blanco community and to meet their neighbors. We also had many tourists last year attend and say how much they enjoyed the event. Our first donation at the information booth was a couple visiting from out of town. Blanconians and friends would like to request all of 3rd Street be closed starting at 281, as well as Pecan Street from the Briars Building to 2nd Street. This allows space for the street dance, food and drink area, as well as unloading and loading locations for the artists and community partners. We would appreciate the council's support for this local focused event. Thank you for your time, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Greg Best. I'm the president of Blanconians and Friends. If anybody has any questions at all about the event, what we're planning, how the funding works, because that seems like everybody wanted to know things about that last year.
Are those street closures gonna be all day long, or the hours you're asking for?
The hours, I believe, are from 10 a.m. until 11 p.m.
Okay. Any arguments from the business owners that will be affecting?
Not so far as I've heard. Okay.
Chief, you good with this?
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
What was the date on that again?
It's March the 22nd.
22nd, what day of the week is that?
That's a Saturday.
Saturday.
It will always be the 3rd Saturday of March.
Okay.
Unless it changes. But currently. It's the 4th Saturday. It's the 4th Saturday. It will always be that Saturday. That's, yeah, it'll be the 28th next year. So that's the 4th Saturday.
Do you have any questions?
We are gonna make Bobby Mack play a fiddle instead of a guitar, though, just.
You can play, I can guitar. You ready to, anybody want to make a motion?
I move we close the streets and have them, and have a great time.
That counts. Anybody want to second that? Okay, all in favor? All right, you got it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. It's Debbie is actually one of the instigators of the whole Bowser thing. She's one of the main reasons that we all got together to do it. That's the one talking about.
Her and Miss Stella.
We're in this house.
Thank you all. All right, thanks, Greg. Number 3, this is election services contract between the City of Blanco and Blanco County Elections Officer, May 3rd election. And this is
So it's pretty much the same contract as last year. We have already approved the cost in the budget. It might go, the cost might go down depending on the number of participants. Last year it was just us and Johnson City. This year it's us, Johnson City, and possibly the Brownwater District if they have an election. And they're still talking to the school, but we're not sure. But does anyone have any questions for me?
Adding in the additional impact the cost does.
Excuse me?
Adding in if the
Oh,
pool or anything.
if they go, our costs will go down.
Okay.
But on the cost to us is already in our budget.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
now for what's included on the ballot itself, we can add referendum items without any additional cost.
Right. So if we add like a bond election or any kind of referendum or measures, it's all on the same ballot. It's a special election in addition to our general election, but it's all on ballot and the cost doesn't change.
Costs on that, but there might be some costs, other costs like putting stuff in the newspaper, just a minor.
Yeah, minor like legal fee costs, but yeah.
Anybody have any questions? On new business, item number 3, I'd like to make a motion that we approve election services contract between City of Blanco and Blanco County Elections Officers for May 3rd, 2025 uniform election and related services.
Awesome. Second.
I'll second.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor? All right, passes unanimously. I like these unanimous things.
Me too.
Okay, now we're going on to number 4. This is related. This is an election order providing for the holding of the general election on May 3rd.
This is just ordering the general election. So it's our standard ordinance that we pass every year to order the election of 1 mayor and 2 council members
Need
at
full,
large.
need full wording on the,
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
On new item, or new business item number 4, I motion that we approve the ordinance 2025-0-001 general elections order providing for the holding of a general election on May 3rd, 2025 for the purpose of electing 1 mayor and 2 council members at large.
So is there a second? I'll second. Okay, more discussion? All in favor? Okay. Excellent. Down, very good.
And like Warren said, just to add, the application for place on the ballot opens tomorrow at 8 o'clock. The packets are ready for pickup. Come see
Some
me.
people keep it out, the line waiting.
And it'll close February the 14th at 5 o'clock. I'll be there taking your applications, and you can call me if you have any questions. Everything's posted online. If you go to the city website, there's a button on the main page. You can click election. It'll go straight to the elections page, and everything's listed there. And if you have trouble, just give me a call. I'll be happy to help.
So you haven't printed out?
And I have the stuff that you have to turn in is printed out.
I'll be glad.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yeah. Moving on to number 5, the budget amendment in the amount of $47,000 and some change for the replacement of water pumps.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Pumps and motors, need to be replaced in the water treatment plant. When it was designed for the original original motors and pumps to, basically stay. But those, after 4 or 5 years of inactivity, we found that they don't work. The water treatment plant is operational now, but what those pumps and motors do is it brings the water to the standpipe that we have near 15th Street, that area there. So we do need to replace that. The reason why it's not just done, it comes to you, is because this was not budgeted. However, we do have reserves to cover that. And what we're looking at is the staff requesting guidance that whether this funds should be taken from INS, which is interest and sinking. We do have a $55,000 reserve on that, or whether you prefer it to be out of the enterprise fund, which I believe we have $302,000 rainy day fund on that. So we do have funds. I do want to show you, just so you see that we got from AEW Pumps Motor Control. There's an invoice, not that any of us are engineers, people behind me, but these are the pumps that actually the unit of plates in there. So my recommendation though is actually going to put on here is that you actually take it out of the 55,000 reserves with the INS. It will not increase anyone's taxes because we actually have that money in reserve with 55, so that would be about 47 of that. So questions of staff?
What's the delivery timeline on these if they get ordered this week?
My understanding is to be a few weeks. Okay, probably have to done by March 1st. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I know he had trouble with finding the right pumps. So.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
4-phase turbine. My one question is I know we need to do it, but how are we going to safeguard for the inactivity of the new pumps that we're getting ready to put into place? Because we're not going to be doing water from our water treatment facility. And if they are activated and then deactivated and set for a while again, we're going to end up in the same situation we're at now. Damon, on top of that, I know we need this, but we're getting ready to put a system together and activate it so that it can set idle and nothing.
Well, that's a good question.
Yes.
Before, the last 4 or 5 years, there was no water plants, so they couldn't be tested. We can actually test them now monthly or quarterly, whatever our engineer says it should be done, or whatever Infomark says, but they'll be tested because we'll need to make sure that water, yes, there isn't water, adequate water in the rivers yet. It will be some point. Okay.
Want to protect our new investments.
Yes, sir. And we do quarterly or monthly testing on that.
Okay, thank you. And does it matter, so from INS Enterprise, so obviously I know reserves are there for things like this, any other potential expenses down the road that would?
I would prefer to go to INS. Generally, INS is accounting for every year. We talk about it and very few things. This is the first time we've actually dug into the INS. It seems like we've done this for enterprise and for general fund or unfunded things from time to time. So there's less likelihood we'd ever go to INS. So I would take it out of that.
And it's okay to use the reserves from INS for that.
Otherwise, it's a little bit of a reserve fund.
Any more questions? You want to make a motion?
Sure. We'll, I'll move that we approve, item number 5, approval of budget amendment and $47,034.34 for the replacement of pumps.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Very good.
I didn't recommend this.
Oh, that's good.
That was, well, you got the direction.
Yes.
INS.
Yeah, remind us.
Unless you just do.
No.
Number 6, this is the creation of a bond committee and bond election procedures to fund restoration of the Christ water, wastewater, and street infrastructure.
Mayor, were you the one that was gonna take this, or, because right now what we have is with the CNET committee that is handling the nuts and bolts. But I think there was a discussion of possibly creating a bond committee which would take the technicals a step further and actually deal with the public. So is that gonna be?
Yeah, and I know Tim, you've done a lot of advocacy for this. So if you could give an overview.
Sure, I think, as Warren mentioned, next month, assuming your CNAC comes forward with this proposal, it's been workshopped. You should have a proposal and you should act on calling for a bond election, subject to your discretion at that moment. Assuming that's gonna happen, it's generally a good idea and common practice to set up. Really, it can be combined in one committee or you can have 2 committees. Your CMAC is gonna operate and provide more or less with the city engineer engineered ideas or planning the bond. This committee, one function, potentially oversight, which gives assurance to the voters that in addition to staff and council, there will be a group of citizens of some level of expertise. They're going to help you all exercise some oversight over implementation of the bond program, assuming it passes. That same committee or an additional group that's part of that committee or separate committee, up to you. Usually I've seen them combined, but they could be 2 subcommittees, however you like, is an engagement committee. That's a citizen committee that goes out and participates in engagement in the community along with you, of course, in educating the community. So at a minimum, I would encourage you to do bond oversight committee because I think it's essential in my practice and experience that the voters have some additional assurance that in addition to your engineer, and your bond counsel, and your CMAC folks, there's going to be some follow-on folks that are assisting you, the management, in seeing to it that the projects are put in on time, on budget, and provide independent feedback on that as you go forward. So that's the concept there. I think you had some names. There may be other names, whatever. That's the
Oversight as well, project budget oversight.
providing, advice on that and oversight. Hey, we got a problem on this one, we got that sort of stuff.
It's a pretty common practice for communities to develop an oversight committee of some sort.
I think it's necessary. It provides continuity, it provides connection to the community.
I think it assures, if done properly, it assures the voters now that there's going to be a systemic, you're gonna have your CMAC, oversight committee, and council all looking at this as it goes, along with your professionals, of course, all looking at implementation of the bond. And, you know, not too many cooks in the kitchen. Everybody has a role. I think it's a good idea. I recommend, assuming you can come up with some good names that you're comfortable with as council, I recommend that you do something like that. And by the way, the bond council, Mark Fowler, concurs with that idea. It's a regular practice.
So let's just discuss this tonight with the, when we vote, put it on the ballot at the next meeting, we can formalize the nation of this and have some more meat on the bones. But, I've been approached by and approached some, you know, folks around town that are here, been here forever and highly regarded, highly respected and experienced in these big projects, and asked them to sort of glance at the whole thing and give a gut check. I think that the community needs that. It's nothing formal at this point, but and going forward, I think for the oversight to add the credibility and the continuity and the connection, the concept is important. So I'd like to get everybody's thoughts on that. And also, if you want to nominate folks, suggest people, we can chase them down and put a formal package together for approval at the next meeting. So what do y'all think?
I mean, I think it's an interesting idea. I do like coupling it with when we're gonna decide if it's going on the actual ballot or not. So I would be able to vote until that point, but I think it's an interesting idea.
Maybe add it to the next workshop.
Sure. But we'll have more meat on the bones to talk about.
Yeah, I personally like the idea of having some construction and large project experts that might have some insight on proper pricing and budget. I know we've all been a little bit nervous about, with all due respect to engineers, or just giving the engineers a number to check off.
Yeah, you don't give engineers like unless they're artists.
So we've done similar projects that can make sure we got the same budgets.
Right, anything?
I'd be willing to support the formation of it. Further oversight's always a good thing.
And again, I would encourage anybody to throw names out, that's interested in doing this, and we'll contact them and put together a package to discuss it at the workshop and then next month. Right. Councilman Swenson, anything?
I concur. I think it would be a good idea also to try to publicize this so that the people we don't know that when they do it. They
Absolutely.
have a heads up.
We'll talk something up and then get it out there. Anything else? All right. Thank you so much. Let's see, that was 6. Now we're on number 7. Consideration discussion regarding the change from mayor council, former government, to council manager, former government.
So Mayor, this is, of course, a grassroots effort. You've heard a few people talk about it, but this is an opportunity for council to kind of discuss this in front of the public. And whatever your thoughts are, this is discussion only, so that's the expectation tonight. I don't have any thoughts on it, but other council members.
Kim, I got a few questions on just kind of how this works. One of the things I noticed is it looks like it takes the budget officer duties and puts it in the city manager's hands. Is that correct? We would do this, makes him the official budget officer.
In the case of the general law city, not really. The general law statute says that the mayor is the budget officer. That's the law is. And moving to city manager form of government. Well, first, let me back up. In practice throughout the state of Texas, you see city manager type of government, mostly in home rule cities that have adopted a charter, which gives them much more leeway on the way they operate. And in those instances where they've adopted city manager form of government, yes, the city manager is the budget officer, does all the finances, is the CEO, the whole drill. Okay. In this instance, you wouldn't be changing, if you're a type agent of the law city, that function, general law, would not change. However, with the city manager governance, you could appoint that person, much like you have now in your current ordinance, the city admin, while the statute says the mayor is the budget officer, your ordinances say the city admin acts as the budget officer. So the idea was some sort of delegation to that city admin as a routine matter. You could provide some additional language if you wanted to, when you, assuming that the citizens want that, to beef that up, make it stronger, what have you. But it wouldn't change the ultimate reality of the statute that the mayor is the budget officer. Now, there's also a comparable statute that says council can prescribe the duties of the mayor as it sees fit. But those two, both, you have to read them together to make them work together. So it would, I like to say that our current operation is city manager light, in a sense, because in 2000, when city council adopted that ordinance, it created the offices of city admin, described in detail the duties of the city admin, which is basically day-to-day management. And in the budget case, made him act as a budget officer. So politically, I think there's a big difference. Legally, I'm not sure there's a big difference. That's my opinion. And I'm your legal officer, not your political officer.
What do you mean politically there's a big difference? What's the big difference?
Well, I think because in most instances, politically, across the state, when you see a city manager, most people think of a CEO that's running the city, because in most instances, like I just said at the outset, you see city managers in home rule cities, and they adopted a charter. And the distinction between a general law city and a home rule charter city, general law cities can do only those things that the legislature has said you could do. Home rule cities are the reverse of that. They can do everything the Constitution allows an entity of the state to do, pursuant to the charter, that the citizens have to adopt it. Now, you could adopt, the citizens, if they wish, could vote for a city manager form of government. Nothing wrong with that, but that's what you would be getting until you are eligible. And I think it's 5,000.
Yes,
It's 5,000, and you could go to charter and adopt a charter. And the way you're growing, that won't be long, in my opinion. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir.
I guess I would ask you a question. I've got a couple of additions. I brought my Texas government code here. I'm curious what problem we're trying to solve, because we are in kind of a city manager-like role now with our current approach. And I'm happy to go on with and I guess I'll just put out there that I think my concern of this, and I talked with Texas Municipal League legal office about this. They were, of course, we can do this, and I talked to them about where we are on government, and they said just be careful. Two things: be careful of unintended consequences, and I would say that it's important if we're gathering petitions from the public that they're truly educated on what we're asking them to sign a petition for, and what may be voted in. Also, the guidance they said, because I'm going to hit all my points here while I have the floor. It's different. It's more difficult to reverse the decision, and I think that's more of a political stance. It's more difficult to go backwards and, well, it's not really what we want. It does tend. The perception was, and there's some reality to this, of the city manager government, and this came from TML, that it takes some power away from the elected officials and puts it in power in an unelected bureaucrat that may not live in the community. And it's when people tend to do this when they do not trust their elected officials. So if we've decided as a community that we cannot trust our elected officials, and we want individual to take this on, then that's worthy of consideration. And certainly, I would just caution that we at least educate the public of what this means. A couple of things on that. Assuming this is on the ballot and it's passed, the city has 60 days to hire a city manager. The city manager is required to have a bond in place because it's very disruptive to change a city manager. One of the guidelines and the advice I've gotten is up to 2 years of salary and it's a bond. So the city manager, when he comes in, depending on his credit rating and bond rating, he might have to pay 5% of that, whatever the council decides bond is required, because it can be very disruptive to either have another election to get out of it or hire a new city manager if that city manager is not working out. And also within 60 days, the governing body shall appoint the city manager solely on the basis of the person's administrative ability. And that's the guidelines in the state law. And you know, that can mean a lot of different things. I would just ask those of you who may be promoting this, let's educate the public about what this is, and does it make sense to look at other forms of government as well? Why was this just pulled out of the hat? You know, oh, let's do this. And I think unfortunately, I think underlying, it's a little bit disappointing to me that the citizens might have that little trust in their executive officials that they would rather that our city basically be run day to day by an unelected person. Gotten a couple of feedback from some folks, and I think the council saw some of this, but one sentence from a citizen here said, who is opposed to this, that we don't want to be in a position where one person, city manager, make a decision, but it takes a majority of the elected council to change it. Well, that's in the flavor of, is this really for sure what we want? I'm not opposed to it. I mean, on the face of it, as long as if that's what the citizens choose to do, but they should educate fully on why we decided that. And back to my original question, and I'll give up the floor. What problem are we trying to solve? And is this the continuity? There's the bond committee will help with the continuity. When and if we ever get a master plan and have some tools of continuity and will be into economic development group down the road, that will give us continuity from council to councils. Yeah, I think I've covered more than I intended to. One last thing to consider, though, the city, and I have some data here on the average salary of city managers. And the 75% percentile, it's $123,000 salary for city managers. 50th percentile is right around $100,000. We could save some money. Cities of our size, Ovilla, Texas has 4,300 population, and it has an $83,000 salary for a city manager. City of Shirts of 42,000 is 121,000. Against the city of Gonzales was 2,165. It's $98,606 at average salary. So these are considerations. If we're going to do this, and as a council we're shopping for a city manager, is it opening up a can of worms? Are we doing unintended consequences we may not have thought? That's all I have to say.
I didn't think that we were, I wasn't trying to solve any problem. I didn't think we had a problem. I was trying to protect Blanco's future. It's a continuity thing. And adding another committee just adds one more thing, that one more thing where you can duplicate yourself. And then we are up here running the city. We're a bunch of volunteers. We are amateur volunteers. I like the professionals doing it. That made me feel good as a citizen. And I'm speaking as a citizen now. I'm not speaking as a council person. And to me, the purest thing in the world is asking a citizen to sign a petition to put it on the ballot to vote for citizens to vote. And that's what the petition is about, is asking citizens to vote on it. And so yes, it does take an education too. But I'm not pointing the finger at any council, but we may not have a smart council, a smart leader in the future. So we need to protect Blanco from that.
It's best to like smart people.
Well, I know what we're doing.
I do think it's good to have a professional with experience running cities helping us out, because we all generally don't. We all bring different benefits. I guess I'm still thinking about how things would change with city administrator versus city manager. The education point, I'm still unclear on that. One question I had, so with our resolution that created the city administrator office, can we, if council chooses, can we not have a city administrator at all? Because I think if this passed, we would have to have a city manager at all times. But without it, we can have a city manager, but we don't have to, in my understanding.
And
Well, you effectively, like I said earlier, you effectively have a city manager light under this dichotomy. But it's called the city administrator, and there's an ordinance attached to his duties. In the case of, first of all, I want to back up one thing. This can happen by two ways. You can call an election, or a petition signed by 20% of the voters numbered that voted in the last mayoral election. Assuming that goes to election and it's approved, we've got 60 days to appoint a city manager, as Mayor Pro Tem pointed out. If you adopt that, the city admin provision, while the substance of it may be put in place, you would have to repeal and amend those provisions to implement a city manager function. It would go away in that form.
Then from my reading, the city council stays basically in control, because they can take powers away from the city manager or add responsibilities at any time.
Oh, yes.
How is this functional any different other than it's going to disrupt things and tie our hands and take power away from the citizens and the council? How is it functional or actually different?
I'd answer your question this way. I don't think it's a practical matter. You have the power right now to prescribe your ordinance as you did, as a 2000 year council did. You can prescribe and place any limitations you want on the chief executive officer of the city at any time. At any time. So, it's really, to me, more of a question of a larger political question. And again, I'm not pointing either. I'm just looking at answering your question. It's more a question of do you want to set it structurally up, the city manager function like you're talking about, council? Or do you want to look at the actual city admin ordinance right now and go tweak that and make changes? You could do that as well.
And so regardless of whether it changes or not, I do think this is a healthy conversation, bringing up questions, is making sure that we're doing things on purpose and being purposeful with how we're moving forward. All that being said, I'm with Councilmember Swanton. I'm still trying to figure it out myself and what are the differences. And so I've been doing some reading as well, learned some from what you mentioned tonight, Tim, and things like that. So again, really at this point, I have no
workshop
opinion one way or the other than, worth a discussion and worth considering. But again, the pros and cons, there's pros and cons to everything, to the current form, to the new form, to some other form that we haven't set. So that's where that discussion is important to really kind of flesh all that out.
Anybody else?
Thanks for the healthy conversation.
Yeah. All righty. Excellent. Thank you. Moving on. This is number 8. This is hiring a contractor to replace the fence of the water treatment plant. So, gosh, first meeting as mayor, there was a change order that I pulled at the time. It was about to send them out, just put a chain link barbed wire top fence around the water treatment plant. I asked it to be pulled because that is wasn't necessary to get the end time, but also that's a fairly highly trafficked place. It's right next to the crown jewel of our city, the river. It's right at the edge of the state park. It's a highly visible spot, and I asked for you to do something maybe a little more aesthetically pleasing there. So that's where this has come to. And now it's time, now that it's up and getting up and running, we need to address the fence issue.
So thank you, Mayor, Council. So the Mayor and I were talking about this. First thing we did was Damon went and got basically looking at how much a normal chain link fence would cost. And we came up with a little bit under $23,000 if we just did the chain link. The problem was then chain link is old and it'll not look great again. The original idea, we looked at doing a cedar fence, a 500-foot length. And as you know, where our plant is on River Run, and then it also faces the river. And so that, when you look at that whole area, just the 500-foot itself, if you got a company to do it, would be $42,000. So what Dana and I talked about doing is perhaps having a hybrid of that. So what we would look at doing, and then I think I sent you an email today. We took 8-foot material fence. It was just got the material, and that would be on a 500-foot. The materials itself would be $15,000. So hold that for a minute. If we took the 6-foot chain link fence, it should be on the river side, and then a little bit, and then the sides are about half of that. Wouldn't see it very much from Vulture or from River Run. You see a little bit, and you're driving south, but you're not. It's basically it's toward the water. Keep that portion of the fence would be $10,000 as per the freedom fence and gates, and you actually just keep that portion as chain link. And if you did the front area, and we actually had, and he agreed to it, we had actually Dane and his staff, when they can, do it in section, and so you actually have Infomark put up the fence or the posts. And we do it section, so it would never be unsafe. There would always be something connecting it. We did that. I think we would get it to about $25,000. So it's a push, or maybe a couple $1,000 more if we do it this way. But you have a nice wood fence. It would be 8 foot in the front because it would be actually a privacy fence. And on the back side, it would still be the chain link with the barbed wire. And the reason for that is that would be in compliance with TCQ. There's a couple things here. There's making it look nice, but then also making it work with the TCQ. That current fence that is there right now, the one that's Riverside, that's 5 foot, but it's never met TCQ standards. So this would be TCQ standards, and that is the safety issue. The council, that's the recommendation. To vote on that.
Warren, we didn't get this in our packet.
It was emailed.
Okay, got it. And that's Jim. On the cedar portion of the fencing, does that estimate include any sealing of the cedar, or is that just putting it up raw?
It would include that, include the joist. It actually includes everything. That would be sealant, the joist, and I'm not the one building it, but that's what I was told.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the original change order from last year was for $40,000 for the fence. So this is an upgrade for less.
Right. I mean, I think it's smart to be watchdog. I think it's smart to ask questions and look at that. That's what the contractor proposed. But we went to free fences, they gave us a different deal. We kind of shopped around, that's why it took a while. We didn't get all of it. But It's good with deals with them.
Right, right. With one of those, fake wood fences, you know, the plastic wood or whatever, is that less, is that,
I wouldn't recommend it because they're not very structurally sound. They won't hold up to a possible, it could take a beating around it. Basically. That's two pieces of time to come in and out of that.
And the hot suckers.
I didn't know, they didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Composite fencing, is probably about 3 times.
Oh, yeah. Of course it is, I like.
And just to confirm, 30,000, is that what we have in the budget for this fence?
Yes, you did. So I'm saying about 25, and you know, and then again, if the ceiling's a little bit more, like Mr. Moses said, maybe it's a little bit more than 25, but we think it's gonna be about 20.
Any more questions? We have a motion.
Is there a problem with doing chain link all the way around?
It's just ugly.
Well, with the wires and copper, wouldn't that be more secure than the wood? No?
That'll still happen. Well, it'll be secure. I mean, there's design specifications to ensure security.
Is it safer to be able to see what's behind the fence? Like if something is in there, you can see it. If it's
Chief, you have a problem with the wood fence on the?
Yes, I do.
You do? What if we did the slats horizontal with a little space in between?
Like I had mentioned the one second ago, because apparently I didn't read this very close. The wood fence would obstruct view of, for officers to patrol an area or something. Now you're talking about jeopardy to a critical infrastructure, which I don't think was discussed. I didn't know the wooden slot was gonna be a wooden fence all the way.
So there's designs of wooden fences that would work.
There are.
So
We have some here in town, like the one across from the apartments. That's metal and wood. You can see, but it's also aesthetically pleasing.
So we work with David and the crew to make sure that it's safe as well as.
Yeah, I'll be there.
You're okay if they listen to your design ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that as long as there's feedback.
Yep. Okay with that.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. The chief is involved in the design.
I guess my concern on that is they change the budget somewhat and it's not
Is it time critical, March?
No, it's not time.
So Chief, if you can, you and Warren and Damon can maybe get us some pictures of what would work and let's get a little more developed and we'll do it next month. Right. Okay, we'll take it next time. Thank you very much. Moving on, number 9. This is regarding restructure of street safety committee and possible related memorandum of agreement. I'll take the first piece of that. Gosh, I don't know how many times and how many people have approached me wanting help to get some energy and excitement forward progress through the street safety committee. And it's been a little bit of a hot potato. Just because it's sensitive for some folks, but and don't come before council, but everybody's just sort of kicked it around and never announced anything. So I'm going to read this, and I'll give a copy to everybody. I apologize, didn't have this ready in time for the packet. I'm sure Laurie can make it available. Everybody.
Yes, I can.
The Streetscape Committee was formally established in 2009 to, and I quote, develop a local streetscape program and plan which would result in historical preservation and beautification of the courthouse square area, while protecting and enhancing the economic redevelopment within the city, especially those businesses adjacent to the courthouse area. The existence of the committee was understood to have a clear endpoint. The end result of this work is intended to be a beautiful makeover of the square and surrounding historic district. This is supposed to be done with donated funds, not from the city. After what's now going on 16 years, the committee has only recently shared some preliminary sketches. No designs have been completed or offered for approval. Most citizens don't know the committee exists or why, and even those who know about it often have a hard time explaining what the purpose is. That said, I think the designs I've seen are fantastic. I believe this is something that will be great for the city and will make folks excited. And I must say, I am in awe of the decades of work that Retta Martin has put into this. Her passion and commitment are inspiring. She deserves great respect and honor. I would love nothing more than to walk hand in hand with Retta through a completed streetscape on the square and look at the work that's been done. I want to do that with you. I want to see it done. I am motivated to do what I can to help see this through to completion. It has recently been brought to my attention that Streetscape is indeed an ad hoc committee that does not have its own bylaws or establishing charter. As a result, it comes under the authority of the mayor to give it shape and direction. After much study and consideration, I am making the following changes. Like the Transportation and Master Plan Committee, Streetscape will be led by a council liaison. Going forward, they will be reporting directly to council and not to Historic Commission. Bookkeeping and handling of funds will be done by the city. I'm asking you to make it a top priority to get more public input and involvement on the designs they've been working on. And I'm thankful that you're doing that at 419. As part of this, I'm asking you to host a community forum sooner than later, similar to those in format hosted by TechStop, during which people can see the plans, meet the committee members, feedback, and hopefully get excited and involved. My recommendation would be to do this during Founders Day with easels set up around the square showing the architect's renderings for that area and a representative there to discuss it. I'm asking them to show clear and tangible progress in 12 months or less in the form of approved and actionable designs and plans to revitalize the square. So that's what I'm doing. And that's available to anybody that wants to see.
So can I just clarify?
Absolutely. Sure.
Streetscapes, there was no ordinance or resolution?
There's no structural document. No, it's an ad hoc committee.
Okay, and so because of that, you have the authority to be.
Absolutely, it's my job.
But they are done.
That's my job. And Tim has guided and advised the council to be all the way through on this.
And, subject to your objection as a majority controlling body of the city, mayor has that obligation and that power. But of course, you can shape that as you see fit. If you see something different as a majority of council, of course. So that's the lay of the land. And it's the lay of the land on everything, pretty much.
Any questions?
Probably some comment. And as I've said many times from behind here, and just generally in the public, I'm a real fan of the streetscape built all along there in 2025. We need to get it done. They're tied to this is a potential funding mechanism. And there's been some disinformation and false information and rumor mill passed around that's not factual about several things. And so in a minute, with the mayor's permission, I'm willing to open this up to questions from the public. If you have any questions or concerns of what's out there in the social media sphere, in my opinion, it needs to be cleared up. There's a memorandum of agreement with KBB as a funder for Streetscape. I don't think there's any idea that should change or can change, or it should change, or there's any reason to change that. The proposal that has kind of, that I'll circle back to in a minute, this Blanco Heritage Organization, a nonprofit, would be an additional funding mechanism. It wouldn't be instead of. And I will say that, can I have the floor for a moment on this? Some of the misinformation and just flat wrong information out there. This has not been discussed, hasn't been around. Nobody knows this was coming. It was originally, this foundation was, I registered the name with the state last March. And that's all that's happened. It's got a registration with the state of Texas in March as a domestic nonprofit, a state nonprofit. There is no committee. There have been no meetings. There's a draft of bylaws that I've borrowed and tweaked from a couple of other different public-private charities that deliver funds for cities and counties. And so there's that, but this is just concept only. And And the concept started when I was asked in January of last year to chair the Comprehensive Master Plan Committee. One of my criteria was that, and I stood before the council at the time as a citizen, I said my concern was it would, if there weren't a mechanism to give it some continuity, that it would be not much better or less frustrating than that Rettas and I were basically co-chairs of the original Comprehensive Master Plan in 2004. And I said, we need some mechanism to have this funded and make it move forward. And by discussing with some other successful philanthropic charities that have provided funding for other governmental entities, it made me think of this foundation idea, like heritage.org, for example. Fast forwarding to that, we now have 25 to 30 volunteers for this Comprehensive Master Plan Committee. There's not been a committee meeting yet because we've been waiting funds. So any work that's been done has just been conceptual, and I've been, Warren and Tim are very aware that there's been no secret meetings or no committee meetings if someone hasn't been invited to. We have launched a website to try to get input from all the citizens. And the idea was this Blanco heritage.org, were yet to be seated with any board of directors, could be a potential funding mechanism for that. Of the 25 to 30 volunteers that have volunteered to help with the Comprehensive Master Plan, at least a dozen of those, or if not more, are aware that this nonprofit exists, at least according to the state of Texas. That there's no board of directors, there's been no bylaws. But many of those folks, names you would know locally here, old-time Blanconians and that volunteered to help with the master plan, have agreed to consider being on the board of directors, which is yet to be seated. So the paper that was going around had the word concept on it. It's a concept paper, and that's all it is. It's not a secret society that's been doing things behind closed doors. And so the concept is, it even says on the concept is, this is seated by the end of Q2 2025. There was a meeting with many folks, probably 18 of the 25 or 30 people who have hoped to be in the master plan committee last August. And it was primarily to talk about the idea of having a nonprofit help support funding mechanisms for the city. And so this is not a new idea. There's a lot of public input. There's a dozen people who are worth considering being on this board to be determined. So I just wanted to clear the air on that. I am frankly happy to stay after the meeting, or even a few minutes here if anybody has concerns.
You offered it, and I'm willing to open the floor to questions on that specific topic. But would you give a second, talk about the San Antonio River Foundation? I know that's part of the inspiration to the model.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the concerns that when people don't know what's going on, they assume it's the worst. But one of the one I've gotten the most support from is the San Antonio River Foundation. It's a nonprofit philanthropic group that's raised tens of millions of dollars for projects in and around San Antonio, conservation projects, educational projects, art, sculpture gardens. Most recently, they did Almost Park, and that's a good point, because their executive director gave me some advice on if we want to launch something similar just for Blanco, whatever Blanco means. We're not going to turn this into San Antonio, but just what Blanco wants. His advice to me was start with a couple of small achievable projects that you can do, and that you have pretty good wins if you want to build this structure that can survive 10 or 20 years and be a philanthropic vehicle for people who love the Blanco community to write big checks to. And the first thing that came to mind to me was streetscape. We need money for streetscape. So why not choose that for this conceptual nonprofit that's not active yet? There are folks out there that will write checks for streetscape and have said so. If we have a real structured board of directors with bylaws and a real operating foundation should have, that there's no reason to think we can't raise that money for streetscape. So just in the concept paper that's circulating and part of this packet was streetscape and part of the pecan bottom. Those would be two relatively affordable foundation projects. Now that would be voted on some future board of directors, assuming this nonprofit is launched. The board of directors choose to say, yes, we want to fund streetscape, but that's not my call. And I'm certainly not chairman. And I certainly do not want to be an executive director of that. I'm nearing retirement, but somebody who has run a charity before. And so some of the pushback there in the social media sphere where there's frankly just falsehoods that whipping up people up into a frenzy is that there may be, that this potential nonprofit may be planning projects. They wouldn't have any, they wouldn't do anything unless it's an approved project, already voted and approved by the city or the government, and the city would request the funds. Any employees of this charity are all that. They are not, it's not city money, there's not a dollar that needs to come from the city, and the city is not obligated to accept a dollar from this charity. There's plenty of projects around Blanco County, such as Twin Cities or Dance Hall, and that if they want the money, then the city does not, then this, I still think this charity is a good idea for the people who love the community of Blanco. Now, if anyone has any concerns or think there's backroom sneaky stuff going on, I'm happy to take any questions and try to tamp this negativity down. I think it's become a little bit of a cancer in this community, in my opinion. So fire away.
Can I also, I'd like to recommend that before any action or change or votes are taken, that we don't do that tonight, but add it to our workshop meeting coming up and continue to let the conversation, not to stop any questions from coming now, but like, I don't want this to, I would say there should not be any change or vote or action taken until we get.
No, I don't think any vote is necessary tonight by any means. And any vote may not ever be necessary if the city doesn't think that they want to partner with some of this. But similar to the other public-private partnerships I've talked about, River Authority being, River Foundation being one of them in San Antonio, is that they require 2 members from the governing body, the governing bodies of the city of San Antonio and the San Antonio River Authority. They have at least 2 members on the board of directors. And so in the draft bylaws that I presented, that I can present to some future board of directors to have to adopt, it says that if the city chooses to have an alliance with this, they can have 2 board members on the 2 members of the community on the board, either elected officials or represented or the city chosen representatives to sit on the board. In the draft bylaws, it also says the county can be representation, because this is not just for the city, it's for the southern half of Blanco County. When this board is seated, they can do this and maybe bring this back to the city and say, if you want us to ally with you, would you like representation? If not, it'll just be similar to Hill Country Alliance with some philanthropic foundation that's here in Central Texas. Kind of long-winded response there.
Oh, yeah, no, I just, this is all new and everybody's digesting it. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure we weren't taking any action on
I
it.
think the workshop might be appropriate.
Well, in that vein, I mean, should that also apply to our streetscapes?
Yeah, so my comment was lumping all of that together, just to see if we could have all of this at the workshop and have a discussion before any change or action is taken.
Well, it seems like these changes from the mayor are in effect now. So could I like make a motion to pause this and keep streetscapes how it is until future discussion?
You could, but you're gonna have a workshop in 2 weeks.
Well, I think that, I mean, I feel like we need to talk to our volunteers from streetscapes before just blindsiding going back and forth.
There's nothing that's been done willy-nilly or without a lot of back and forth and dialogue and conversation.
Are streetscape members aware of this?
The mayor pro tem has been very active in
No, I'm just talking about these specific, like moving it away, moving it under his sword. I'd like to make a motion that we keep streetscapes how it was and go further discussion.
I would second that because I know my breath, it took my breath away. And I haven't been a big streetscape advocate. Because I said we needed to fix what was under the streets before we fixed what was on top of the streets. But it seems, I'm sorry, don't take this the wrong way, Mayor. A little authoritative.
You know, it's been brought before council several times in the last year, and it's always been, we can talk about it some more. This committee's been in existence for 16 years, and there's still no plan. There's some preliminary drawings, nothing's been approved. Something needs to change, it needs some leadership and more conversation, and let's wring our hands and listen to this has been a lot of, this is how things get done, and this is the authority. You can undo it, fine, but I'm telling you, it's just gonna sit there. It's gonna sit there, and it'll be another 16 years if you want to go that route. So it's your choice.
If you amend your motion requiring that it be part of the workshop.
Yes.
So that it is formally your plan to move forward. I think the overarching concern, and I've heard indirectly through you all about concerns from Streetscape itself, that it just keeps getting kicked and kicked and kicked. And frankly, the idea of a strong liaison has been something adopted in other instances, so I'm not sure.
They're having a mixer in 2 days.
May I also say, I mean, we've had meetings and no one from council has shown up to our meetings in many months. So while I hear that this is a conversation that has been happening, that is true. I've had casual conversations with some members of council about what needs to be done about streetscape. And I myself have said that the city should, in my opinion, the city should be helping to fund what is essentially a city asset, sidewalks. Why would you expect private citizens to pay for that? I mean, that's a question that I asked. But I think that the way that this came out in the agenda, I don't think that you were very transparent about it. It wasn't a thing that the committee was informed about in an official way. There was maybe some unofficial conversations that happened with some members of the committee, but the committee as a whole was not informed that this was going to happen. And the way that you're saying, I'm going to take over control of this, I understand that's within your rights, but I'm telling you, it doesn't feel really great.
You know, I appreciate the feedback. 16 years and still nothing is pretty sad, to be honest with you. So it is.
I'd like one comment too, if I could. My concern about the current perception of streetscape right now, fair or unfair, is that the organization is not strong enough for people to really want to write significant checks to. I know several donors that have told me over the last year, and they've cooled off, that we're talking $20,000, $30,000 checks they wanted to write, but there was no, it's better now. But we talked about this in a meeting a couple of months ago. There was no accounting system, there's no governance, there was no, if I write a check for this, is it really going to be used? And those donors have cooled off. So whatever we need to do, I think a breath of fresh air into this and say, yes, the city's embracing this. Let's get this done in 2025. I think that's the motivation. Now, your point is well taken about the communication, but it's probably been difficult to understand, well, how can we change the structure of the streetscape such that even the public will take a fresh look at it?
Yes, sir.
Couple thoughts. I think you're talking about two things. You're talking about streetscape and you're talking about KV. I've been coming here for a while now, for these meetings, and I've heard streetscape get up, wanting to do the next step, wanting to do the next step. They can't do anything. They're held accountable. They come up with their own money. And I agree with Stephanie. Sidewalks are city sidewalks. I don't see that you all have done anything to help them take that next step. So you can say it's been 16 years. For 16 years, they've been told you got to do it yourself, folks. Get busy, get busy. Where's KBB in all this? They are a nonprofit. Why does the money come through KBB to help fund them? Why do we need a new?
That's the big question, though, is it has been unsuccessful.
Well, nobody in this council or previous council has raised had a fundraiser to help KDB raise funds. Do it yourself, folks. Get out there with your hands on the weekends and fix the park yourself. And they did. I just think Streetscape, KBB need more than just lip service during the city council meeting. They need some funding. You all have got some funding.
There's more issues than that.
I'm not done. I said there's several issues.
And it's fundamentally structural.
You know, I wrote you all a letter where I took this concept and I went through the concept line by line and gave you feedback. There were nothing more than comments. Why is this way? Why is it this way? Those were not, they were just questions about a concept. And I think those need to be answered before you can ever embark on rebuilding the nonprofit. I don't understand.
Since you're going to that, let me clarify something I didn't mention earlier. Part of the dust up I think out of the committee is the word architect showing up in that draft. And I want to make it clear that there was some confusion that this potential nonprofit was going to take over Streetscape. It really talks about just an indemnification in section 4B of that. It's that the Streetscape can use funds from the city or from this potential nonprofit, the conceptual nonprofit, to hire an architect or planner, but the city is indemnified and the foundation is indemnified and Streetscape is indemnified from any liability that's from malpractice from the architect. And I think some of the folks out there on the social media sphere said, oh, they're taking this over and firing Sue Ann Pemberton. That's not it at all. They just want to protect themselves from legal liability if their money is used for that. So if you're talking, you brought up the foundation again, so I just wanted to clarify that because I know that was a hot topic for everybody.
That wasn't the hot topic. I understand it's a litigation. I think that's a good feature. I don't understand why there has to be.
It doesn't have to be an agreement at all, unless the city wants to have a couple of people on the board.
Let's take that to the workshop.
That's
a little bit off. So we got to go off track. We have a motion. Can you restate your motion, please?
My motion is to keep Streetscape how it is for now, pending discussion of the next council workshop.
Pending discussion, okay. And Kenny,
Mr. Mayor, may I request a roll call vote starting on that end?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Woodson.
Yes.
Councilmember Cargill.
Yes.
Councilmember McClung.
I'd like to abstain for now.
Yes. I'll vote yes. Okay. Real good. Motion passes. Tabled until the workshop. Moving on. Number 10, this is consideration, discussion, and possible action on communication with TxDOT regarding a possible relief route on Highway 21.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Before we give the floor to Mr. Palmer, I want to kind of give a little bit of an update on, or at least a little bit of background. So about a year ago, different councils had put a resolution together that the 281 relief route be outside both the city and the ETJ. And they directed me to send an actually a letter to Joe Monk, which I signed and sent. And there has been some conversation, obviously, council in two different pieces that we have met with TxDOT, and there have discussions and TxDOT will see what's going on. Having said that, Mr. Jay Palmer, who is the property owner just east of our wastewater treatment plant, would like to be heard and have a presentation to explain what further wants or would like. And I think that's something to do with this letter. And so I'll let him kind of explain it.
Awesome spot. Maybe go back and forth on this.
Yeah, whatever you want.
It's not necessarily. Mayor, City Council members, my name is Jay Palmer. I'm a proud member of the ETJ. As you all know, TxDOT is returning to Blanco on the 29th for workshop number 3. They are bringing with them 2 option routes for the various folks to consider. And upon my most recent meeting with the same TxDOT officials that the mayor and 2 other council members met with, along with Warren and Ken, TxDOT reported to me that they understood that the city of Blanco no longer agreed with the resolution letter of January 10th, 2024 that Warren has alluded to just a while ago. And that letter suggested that the bypass, if found necessary, would be located outside the city limit and outside the ETJ. Warren, if you could go ahead and do it. Yeah. This is my $32 laser pointer that I was talking to a member of this meeting earlier today, and I was still into the conversation. I walked into Best Buy and found what I was looking for and asked the attendant to describe it to me as I was talking to this person on the phone, and got so far into the conversation, I walked out of Best Buy and got in my car and got on 290 to head up here and realized I hadn't ever paid for the motorcycle. Chief, I turned around and it works, so, you know. That doesn't work very well, but
Collaboration. It's all on video too.
upon my recent meeting with the TxDOT official that met with the mayor and Warren and Tim and 2 council members, they reported that they understood that the city of Blanco no longer agreed with the previous resolution of January 10th. After the January 10th, 2024 resolution, 3 attempts have been made to reverse the resolution. One by a direct letter sent immediately after to TxDOT by the mayor. Another attempt was made by placing the rescinding of this resolution on a council meeting agenda, only to have it tabled at the meeting. And the third, apparently at the meeting with TxDOT here most recently. Based upon this statement by TxDOT, as well as the confirmation that TxDOT's belief was not misinterpreted, I have asked the council to entertain the following offer as a good faith demonstration and a continued effort to further convince the city officials that endorsing any of the 3 option routes within the city's ETJ, routes 3, 4, or 5, and here my pointer doesn't even work on the thing. There you go.
We don't work too good on mine.
Almost got a record for it, it doesn't even work. 3, 4, and 5.
That was fun.
They are all in the ETJ. I am asking the council to consider the following offer as a good faith demonstration. And a continued effort to further convince the city officials that endorsing any of those 3 option routes within the city's ETJ not only destroys a city-approved subdivision ready for development, but but will eliminate the potential of the city receiving millions of dollars of sales tax and ad valorem taxes, not only for my project, but also from a neighboring residential and commercial project at a time that this community is certainly in need of these opportunities. Can we turn to another site plan? That one right there, the top one. No, the low part there. Okay.
Palmer, I got a cattle prod out the truck.
Okay, this represents a subdivision that has been plat approved by the city. 63 5-acre tracts. Down here represents a 72-acre ranch that had to be purchased in order to give the city a secondary access out of the project to Sunset Drive. And I did not purchase that piece of property until the city indicated that if I purchased it and could provide a secondary access, they would approve my plat. I've done so. I am still looking for another access all the way to 281, and I've been working with the folks on this 97-acre tract for the development of that tract. So now, understanding that TxDOT is coming to town on the 29th and are going to be suggesting 2 route options, I am concerned that that selection that they present on the 29th will be based upon their belief that the city no longer is backing the previous resolution that was submitted in January of 2024. I have met with the various council members. I have received confirmation that this discussion took place with TxDOT in the first meeting, and I'm concerned about it. I don't know if there's anything we can do between now and the 29th. It may be too late. The damage may already be done. But here's what I discussed with Council Member Bobby Mack a few days ago. And I didn't realize what a extremely good negotiator he was. But nevertheless, I think I came out of the meeting with an understanding of what possibly could be a win-win for everybody. I would like a resolution tonight that further endorses and reinforces the previous city position as found in the resolution letter to TxDOT of January 10th, 2024. I would also prefer that there be sufficient clarity in stating that the council is strongly urging that routes 3, 4, and 5 not be considered as viable options and that the bypass be located significantly further to the west. East. To the east. Thank you, Bobby. I would also like the following reasons to be stated in that resolution for the city's reasons for this request. I'm getting pretty bold here, and I'll get to the end and maybe you'll understand. The following 3 reasons that I'd like stated in the resolution. A, routes 3, 4, and 5 all adversely affect a city-approved subdivision plat. B, the 3 bypass options adversely affect a previously negotiated and deeded easement and wastewater discharge route that is currently the subject of a long-awaited TCEQ permit approval that is I hope about to be issued. Well, 3 years ago, I deeded an easement from the city's wastewater plant across my property, down Heimer Road. I didn't own this property, and the lady would not give me an easement. So I purchased the 14 acres so that the city could have a continuation of that wastewater pipe to the river. Why am I doing that? Because currently, excess wastewater is coming right down a ditch through my property through my yard in an area where my grandkids play and just right into that river. And it is creating the most awful water you can imagine, especially when we're in a drought. We don't have any other water coming in. I don't know where we are on TCEQ approving this, but I think we're still in the throes of getting this done.
Yeah.
All right. So with all that having been said, the approval of this plat, the negotiated and deeded easement for the wastewater line, and the purchase of a 72-acre ranch just so I could have another secondary way out. I would like a strongly worded resolution. I don't need it tabled. I don't need a workshop. I need that resolution voted on tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason I'm saying that is they're going to be in town in a couple of weeks. And I don't think I've got time to sit around and see what happens, because I already believe that one or two of those routes that are going to be suggested come through my property. And I believe it comes through my property based upon misinformation discussed with, maybe not misinformation, that's information shared with TxDOT that says the city may not be as interested in the bypass being on the outside of ETJ, outside of city limits. If you can flip down, I want to discuss this 97-acre tract right here. The one bypass comes through, eliminates where we're going to build the winery, destroys the vineyard that's already been in production for the last 3 years, comes through and destroys the plan of this piece of property. This is not my property, so I will tell you that we are in negotiations right now with the Pollocks on that piece of property. It has 163 residential lots potentially and commercial frontage along 281. We can skip to that next one. Keep going. Here's how that property was designed and offered, and it was offered to Warren to review a while back. I've offered so to Bobby Mack to review. And this is a concept. That's all it is. It's a concept that was put together before any of us heard about TxDOT coming down. So if anyone thinks that we want to drain this up real quick just to affect the bypass, that would be mistaken. This is frontage. That's commercial frontage. That's what I do for a living. I'm in the commercial retail business. If you can go back up to the one previous to that. Oh, the next one. No, the one above the one you were just on. I have offered, I'm offering tonight, if the city would issue this resolution unanimously so that I could represent the TxDOT that this is still something that the city's interested in, the council is interested in. I've agreed with Bobby Mack to brought it up, and I've said I'm willing to self-annex all the commercial frontage that we have along the river and along 165. That would include a winery, a tasting room, a restaurant, a 400-seated event center, and 18 sequences, we call it, rental units for overnight rentals that work in conjunction with the event center. I believe that that alone will be significant in the way of ad valorem and sales tax to the city of Blanco. And I believe that if that bypass did not run through this track down here, that track will generate a sizable amount of tax base for the city and retail development It's not gonna happen overnight, but it's not gonna happen at all if that bypass goes through. Not only this bypass, but another bypass comes through, makes a turn on the premier, most elevated lots in the development, and comes down and affects this project as well. So it's a tall ask, but I'm asking for something that I thought we already had. I thought this council was still abiding by a previous resolution. And if they're not, then I'd like to know it. But if there are a majority of you, and hopefully a unanimous group of you, interested in maintaining a future bypass out of the city limits and out of the ETJ. Another thing that Bobby Mack told me is if I did annex that commercial property along the river, he would allow the ETJ to extend out another half mile. And I think that would be interesting for the city. But this bypass makes it almost impossible to develop anything east of it. I don't know how you get utilities extended out there east of it. I don't know how anything accesses the wastewater treatment plant. And it's just like building a wall through the city. So I asked at one of the last meetings what the council came back from the TxDOT meeting with, what did they walk away with, what did they hope to gain? And I heard it was an informational only meeting, a fact-finding meeting, and that they did hear that TxDOT was not going to allow service roads and would not allow off-on ramps. And again, as someone that develops retail, that basically prevents any land rush of developers going out to the bypass and trying to develop retail, buggies, restaurants, whatever. So there's no fear of that. So my question is, what does it matter if a bypass is a half mile off of 281, or it's a mile off of 281, or a mile and a half off of 281, if there's not any risk of anyone leaving the city and moving out there to the bypass, or any risk of anyone coming from afar and developing on the bypass? What is the risk? It's not going to cost the city anymore to have the bypass located farther out. It's certainly going to cost the state, but I think they're going to probably weigh this against the acquisition cost of the property. And I would just simply ask that I not be sent into this war with my hands tied on my back. I'd like to know if this council is in favor of maintaining what the previous council tried to do. And if anybody has any questions on
Thank you, sir. You've been misinformed. There was no lobbying that took place at that meeting with TxDOT.
Didn't use the word lobbying.
Okay, there was nothing but fact finding. Also, to refresh your memory, the resolution you speak of passed by a 3-2 margin, and two of the people that voted for it lost by huge margins not long after that.
I don't think that, Mayor, with all due respect, I don't think that has anything to do with what we're here.
But it's the context. It was never unanimous then. So it's and also with all the talk of transparency, there was nothing in the packet about this. There was, which is surprising. I'm supposed to have authority over the agenda. This was stuck on the agenda without any discussion or approval. If it's just stuck in there, and this is all a surprise to all of us.
Maybe that is not true.
Sure.
The applicant met with Mr. Mack. Mr. Mack sent me an email requesting you be on the agenda. He said that he talked to you, had a lengthy discussion with you about this. I believe him. And if that is not the case, I apologize for that. And then Candy seconded it. So this was correctly put on the agenda, sir.
Yeah, it's nothing's in the packet about it. There's no heads up about what it was going to be about or anything. So for the sake of transparency, is the other things I believe this needs to be talked about in the workshop. Also, I think it's sort of a moot point. TxDOT's not going to change their presentation based on something that is or is not done tonight. Coming in a couple weeks, we're going to sit and meet with them. like everybody at the high school, and then we'll have a workshop and we can discuss it.
Mr. Mayor, you told us at the last meeting that TxDOT would never accept the suggestions of the previous council in that resolution. They would never agree to no service roads. They would never agree to no on-off access. And Councilmember Moore told me last meeting that that's exactly what they said. So when you say they never will do something, I met with TxDOT, and TxDOT told me, TxDOT told me that they were under the impression that the city no longer was abiding by that resolution letter. And that's the only reason I'm here. I'm not trying to point fingers. I was just trying to say they have this in their minds. So I'm not going to argue with you whether they have it in their minds or not. But I've also been told by someone in that meeting that this was discussed. So I don't want to argue with you if it has.
To clarify what was presented and what is still the case, all of those drawings that have been submitted, all of those include feeder roads. That's all the drawings that they put forth do include that. So it hasn't been decided. They're leaning one way or another. We don't know what they're going to do. And we don't know how much authority we have to sway it anyway.
They told us
That line, that general line has been on the map 50 years. That's the route they've been proposing.
I'm sorry, it doesn't matter. And Councilmember Swenson, you were.
Sorry, just mentioning it, with Candy and Dennis and I met with TxDOT, they told us there would be no frontage. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, they haven't, what I remember reading is they haven't said they're leaning one way, they're leaning another, but nothing has been decided. And all those drawings do include feeder roads, is what we were told.
I guess former Councilmember Brookhill was not considered because he lost his election. None of you people lost your election, so I'm just here simply asking. If this makes sense, I would very much like that you would entertain a resolution, and I'll be happy with that. But I don't have the time to wait for a workshop.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I've got some input if I may. Mr. Palmer, you and I have been honest with each other. First, I think it's important to say that in our discussions, I've always said, I only represent myself. I do not represent the city. I can't negotiate with you on behalf of the city, and I want to put that out there before the social media sphere blows up on us. That I'm speaking only as an individual. At the time, I thought it being outside of the, and you and I talked about this, being outside of the ETJ at the time, when that resolution was made, I wasn't on the council, and I thought that point was misguided. Not having any exits or service roads, that's a whole different discussion, but my concern is that being outside of the ETJ is that it will develop much more slowly. You're exactly right. It's not going to be another Main Street. And TxDOT was very clear that's not what they want. However, and you and I have also talked about, I see the concern for the city for not being out of the ETJs. We have no control whatsoever what's happening. It's potentially, it won't be retail, but it could be a destination for a larger industry. Junkyard, fiberglass factory on the east side, something that the city is not good for the city of the Hill Country. And they also intend to prepare on the toll road on the east of Austin. It was never to have development either, but it has development now. So it'll be much slower. I really like your approach. I like your plan. I like your project. I don't want to see it go through the middle of that project because that's good for the city, in my opinion. I truly believe that. And the fact when you and I were talking, I wouldn't say, I don't want to use the word negotiations. I can't negotiate.
Well, okay. You brought up something and I thought that made sense.
Well, and so when you said, well, I would consider bringing in the commercial part of this development, I said, wow, what a great thing for the city.
So that, yes.
Yes, and I'm thinking what a great thing for the city because it also pushes the ETJ out. So maybe that further route and far green route is way out.
You weren't holding a gun to me.
No, I was.
I agree, and I felt like I could do it, and I agreed to do it. But
if we could extend that ETJ, then my concern for the city with the route further out is diminished because we have some sort of input on what kind of industry.
Anybody that just a letter can remove themselves from the ETJ, but it gives us zero functional authority, because if we say something that'll.
I prefer not to think about that.
But that's the reality, anybody in the ETJ today can write a letter and be gone.
Today, and hopefully we'll get a carve out for cities under 5,000 as we had discussed.
We find out.
If the route were shown, if the route were shown where you said it was discussed along Pine Road, the protection that you said the city, you'd like the city to have. You have protection over here because you've already approved my plat for a subdivision. I'm not building any factories. On this side of the road, it's outside the ETJ, so you have no protection there at all. So if I were to dedicate or annex the frontage, that ETJ would extend out there. So we would have. At any rate,
I have less concern about the heat and risk of Blanco community. If we have some sort of subdivision or drainage control over that ETJ.
I think that, unfortunately, I think that TxDOT is coming to town, and I think they've got one and maybe two options that follow along routes 3, 4, and 5, and that would be a shame. Not just me and my project for Blanco. I can put it on that other.
Say that again. What did you say? What do you think is coming to TxDOT?
I am assuming, okay, it's an assumption based on all that I hear everybody talking about. The TxDOT will be here, and I believe one route will be destroying what I just discussed tonight. A second route may very well do the same thing, but somewhat off of that. And I'm here asking for a resolution that says 3, 4, and 5 just need to be, we would prefer that they not be used. I'm not saying where to put it, I'm just saying, please don't put it on the
Tim?
Mr. Palmer, have you communicated all these concerns about the potential destruction of your development? All those concerns have been communicated directly to these folks at TxDOT, I assume. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On more than one occasion.
Okay. I want to be sure that that's no. I want to express to you, I was as counsel for the city, I was in both those meetings with all council ended up meeting, with the exception of one council member who did not make it. All council met with the same people from TxDOT. There was one conversation as part of a larger meeting where one member of council brought up this notion that might have been interpreted to say, gee, we not all tied up to this close-in issue. But in no circumstance, in either one of those meetings, and I express to you honestly, I'm disappointed to hear, and I take you at your word, that you've heard from members of TxDOT that this body is informally reversing itself on a referendum vote that's already taken place.
That's not what I said, Tim. Let me clarify that. TxDOT simply told me that they feel like the city is no longer abiding by or feels like the previous resolution is something that they care about. That is what I got. And with that information, I questioned a lot of people. And with that information, I will compliment the honesty of Bobby Mack because he did share with me. They may have gotten that idea based on what I told them. And I said, what did you tell him? And he told me what he did. That was his opinion. But TxDOT has an idea. So all I'm saying is if that's in their mind, can we get something that will reverse that? And I'm ready to get out of it too. I've got my attorney, he charges by the minute. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, may I have the floor for a moment? Well, first thing is on this issue, I hate to get off the beaten path here, but I am against annexing that property into the city. The reason being, I understand the financial implications and possible tax revenues, expansion of the ETJ. I understand all the benefits that go along with it. I have a strong disdain for the city's track record of not being able to serve or take care of the citizens that they've already forcibly annexed. We're going to vow serve new ones who are just going to come in. And I believe until the city establishes a track record of good decision-making moving forward, which I can honestly say has not been established yet, in my opinion. I think annexing further property is a better choice. With that being said, I also did not agree with the resolution that was put together by the previous council. Did not necessarily the terms that I had anything wrong with, but I had something wrong with the time, and I think it was too early. I think a stance should only be taken when we are sure and kind of unified on that, and if not, then we shouldn't take a stance. But I'm also very against waffling and going back and forth and trying to remove and assure. We do have a resolution that we put out. That's we're willing to withdraw that and take it down right now. Even though I did not vote for the original resolution, I think it's very important that the city establishes that we either stand by what we've said before, or we better withdraw it, because and I, for one, would be willing to stand by what was chosen and said before, simply because that's what was voted on. And although I may have been on the losing end of that vote, I will stand by that it was a majority of the council that chose that. So that's where I stand on this.
Well, you brought up can of worms about the annexation. There's plenty of cans of worms that are all of a sudden just sprung open, including a drawing of a neighborhood that has, looks like hundreds of homes, and there's a question of where's water coming from, where's sewage going to. There's a lot of messy things about this that it's premature, I believe, to take a strong position. I think the wise course is to wait till TxDOT does their thing, which is already teed up. I'm sure they already have a presentation made. It's very possible that one of their routes is going to be way out there. And then we have something tangible we can speak to, and we'll have a workshop to talk about it. We can unpack some of these cans of worms, like the annexation, like the water issues, etc. So I don't believe this is, we're ready to call a vote on anything related to this tonight without more conversation and feedback from the citizens, and also hearing what TxDOT is working on.
If anyone has a problem with the 97 acres that I said would be lost, we'll take that off the table. I'm just pointing that out, but I will also tell you that never had anybody tell you this is a one-time offer.
I don't take kindly to that.
I don't either. That's why I'm not saying it, but I'm telling you, I can tell you why there's not a reason why this council could not only suggest that we are still behind the resolution of January of 2024, but in addition, and I don't have to annex into the city. I don't want to annex into the city. That gentleman back there negotiated an agreement that I didn't have to annex into the city for 45 years. Legislature changed the law about a month later. But at any rate, I don't have to. I'm saying I would be willing to. Now, if there's flies all over that offer and folks don't want it, I'll take it off the table. I just would like a clean resolution that would reverse what I believe and what I've heard from TxDOT is a sense that they feel. And if y'all say, well, they shouldn't feel that way, I'm telling you, they do. I think Jim and Warren both believe me when I say it happened. That's what they said. And probably not. I don't know if it's your discussion on your personal feelings or what it is, but that's how it was addressed to me. So again, I would very much welcome some kind of a resolution that allows me to demonstrate to them that the city hasn't changed their mind. And I did have a conversation with 4 members of this council. And the only reason I didn't get with Mr. Moore, because I've been trying to, and he's been busy, and I've been busy. So I didn't want to throw this at you at the last minute.
I will say this, I did share with him, I did at the Texas, and I've told you this already. At the TxDOT meeting that I was at, the first one, I was very clear to say, I'm only one vote, this is my personal concern, and I shared my concern about being outside the ETJ. And as I mentioned to you, perhaps I was persuasive that day, and that's why I can see why they might have picked up that feeling, but I was very clear, I do not speak for the council. I'm concerned about this being.
I appreciate that.
And I've been honest with you.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
And I also believe that Blanco should be open for business. Unfortunately, it struggles with water, or we have to have sewer, and Councilman Moses, your point is well taken. We got to be ready to be able to serve any development or new annexations, and that's a challenge, but Blanco has a long-term reputation around the state of being impossible to do business with. That we just say no to everything.
Before I forget,
Personally, I would like to, for the record, like to say, I think Blanco should be open for business as long as we can handle that business.
I failed to point out something very important. This route also wipes out 2 homesteads, two large acre tracts with representatives that are here right now. These 2 gentlemen voted against me the first time I came up to Yellow. And I was given a couple of weeks to visit with them again based on Rock Hill's recommendation and getting their support. But this route right here destroys their property. I don't know that you want to hear from them. I already have.
I think all of us on the council within the TxDOT have gotten this message from TxDOT that their higher ups have mandated that they do not bisect properties wherever possible and look for other alternatives. So my hope is
that bisecting me.
Well, in these routes, well, I think since these, this is my opinion, since these routes were published, they've been told, no, you better look at this, you can't be bisecting up, certainly an approved subdivision.
I don't believe any of these exact routes are going to be in anything they present. What they've said,
are you letting them?
What they've said is they've tweaked and modified, they've worked, around with various things, and there's going to be some that resemble, the 2 will resemble this, but they won't be identical, is my understanding.
One route wipes out everything, lots 52, 51, 50, all the way down to the end. This second route wipes out those and these up here.
We don't know what they're going to present to us. They said it's probably nothing you've seen before. If I remember the words, there might be one that looks familiar, but there's going to be a route that they're proposing. My understanding that was a hybrid of them, and as Bobby said, they're working to not bisect properties. And so I think they're looking at a more macro level to begin with, and now they're getting to the micro. They've tweaked and adjusted it. And the wise thing to do would be to wait and see what they present to us and then take a strong position at that point. Because if we say we don't like any of these and they don't present any of these, that sort of makes us look like idiots. There's no urgency. They're coming, they're going to present. There's a lot of variables and factors that need to be discussed. You're presenting one side of it, which is fine. It's your prerogative. You're one side. But there's a lot more here that has been the consensus tonight. We need public input. Of all the issues we discussed tonight, this is perhaps the most controversial and the most significant for our town. And to rush into something before TxDOT says their piece, I think is a foolish endeavor, and it will diminish our ability to make an impact and not enhance it.
I would be in favor of reaffirming the resolution tonight. I do think we've had a lot of public input on this. Every time TxDOT comes to town, we all go there and I'll listen to what everyone says.
Yeah, but if you look at the public feedback, they all favor you would be making a resolution of your own personal opinion and not the representing the city, because if you look at about feedback and what people like, the people like the closer ones. That's what we've learned by reading their data. I mean, that's what it shows.
That's not what I heard from people.
Harold went to that workshop #1 with all the 10, 20 tables around there, and I followed you around all over that. And you continue telling everyone that this is the best route because TxDOT's going to make us pay 20% of the cost of the route in its closest unit. So it'll be the most effective and the cheapest for the city.
That's not been the basis of any position. I mean, it's been
a point,
but not the point.
I followed you around and I texting people saying, text up. The state of Texas passed a legislation weeks before that that said cities no longer have to participate in the cost of a bypass. And your response to that text was, yeah, but I think it's too premature to talk about that. So I didn't want to get into this bigger point, but yes, people are looking at this as a popularity contest.
No,
It's not, but when they hear the mayor say, this is it, this is TxDOT, this is what everybody wants, and there's no sense in looking at any other location because this is what we want. And that turned out to be.
I'm calling it into this. Thank you for your input. You can sit down now. So, I'm gonna table this.
That's a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, then I'm gonna call it, I'm gonna say we can talk about the executive session before we take action on it.
Hey,
no,
you can't.
No transparency. I'm so disappointed in you.
He can consent an agenda, but you can't deny a motion.
Put stuff in executive session.
I can't do that without going to law school.
Tim, is it noticed for executive session?
Sorry?
Is it noticed for executive session?
No, there's an option to put anything that's on the current agenda in the executive session.
They do the catch-all with 551, but they can't do it the way you just did it. And I went to law school with the nose got broke.
Can we make a, is there any way we can make a motion right now? And
No, you can make a motion if you wish.
I'd
Yeah.
like to make a motion that we reaffirm, the current recommendation.
We're still gonna end up talking,
And I'd like to
if
take
you act, no, let me hear me. If you get a second and vote, it passes. The item is still going back for discussion and further action out of the executive session.
I wish to discuss it in executive session before we take it.
Well, I'm suggesting to you, that is fine.
Okay, thank you.
But if there's a motion and second on the floor, and it's voted on.
Okay, it hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened.
Okay.
That was my point, respectfully.
I'd like to take it to executive session before we proceed.
There, you got a motion, you got a motion and you got a second.
Okay.
You got a motion and second, call for discussion and a vote.
Well, let's call for discussion then. I think this is premature.
What is the motion?
To reaffirm the recommendation that I saw that we already have.
I believe we need to discuss this at the workshop. I believe there's a lot of people that haven't been heard, that didn't know this was on the agenda. We talk about lack of transparency. This is a big monumental thing that we're doing without anything even risking it. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't not consistent with the general vibe of the council that we want to get public input. A equally compelling and heartfelt case, if we got all night, could be made on why it's in the city's best interest to have it close to the house. As far as numerous factors, including, there's numerous factors. The fact is, TxDOT's going to build what TxDOT's going to build anyway. I believe it's best that we wait till the TxDOT presentation. We see what they've done, what they haven't done. Then we can take an educated position on this is the one we prefer, or if we don't like either of them, then we can say we don't like it at all. But with public input and with knowledge, we don't know what they're going to present. I think this is going to make us look stupid.
I can firmly say that I haven't heard anyone tell me that we should make Lakewood into a freeway town.
Nobody has said
If
that
there's
at
a
all.
freeway in city limits,
None of
Lakewood's
that,
not a freeway town.
I don't know that any of the proposed drawings can be in our city limits. We don't know that. We don't know what they're going to.
We're not speaking about what we're telling you.
The resolution. We have no day to take it.
Here, you got discussion, you got discussion. You can ask for further discussion and then a vote. I would like to note, however, for council, if you take no action.
The other
take no
resolution
action,
stands.
the resolution stands, and I'm happy to communicate that to TxDOT tomorrow, that council tonight took no action.
On the other hand, if you want to vote for this motion, that's fine too. That's all within your prerogative. But it's all sort of, in my mind, kind of the same thing. To the point Councilman Moses put, that if you take no action here with the item on the agenda, you are impliedly confirming the very thing that's up for discussion here. So I understand the distinction Mr. Palmer's making, but in effect, in your consideration, either way, you're supporting this current resolution.
Unless the vote fails, then it kind of.
Yeah,
And
it's on the floor.
what is the text? We don't even know the text of that resolution. We haven't.
The resolution passed in 24.
Yeah, what specifically was on there?
I got it right here.
Okay.
The resolution.
And if you would read that, I would like to join the discussion.
I've got it.
Resolution.
Mr. Palmer, let us talk, okay? I got it right. January 10th, Joe Munn, Warren Escovitty, on behalf of City of Blanco, I'm president confirming the following official action of the governing body of the City of Blanco. On January 9th, 2024, a year ago, upon motion and second, Blanco City Council voted 3-2 to recommend text dot that any Highway 281 relief route near the city of Blanco be 1, routed outside the city's limits and ETJ, 2, have no exits other than the north-south interconnect steps 165, and 3, have no frontage roads. You may receive separate communications from individual members of City Council with their own elaboration upon the action described. These communications are representative solely of the individual views of those members. Appreciate your assistance, Paul. Thank you, Warren. Those 3 conditions were in that resolution, and that resolution is still pending and still active.
I'd like to make a comment. One, I mentioned before, the text dot is very unlikely to bisect that development, and I would disagree if they chose to. My only concern about that original resolution was insisting it's outside of the ETJ. I thought it was misdirected at the time, and we're saying we don't want any control over this. I'm not opposed to it being outside of the city limits and not having access roads except for 165 at the entrance and exit points. But I could be inclined to be in favor of maintaining a resolution with the exclusion of the ETJ. Like parking.
If we have a unanimous vote, I think we need to have more input. I think we need to see what text dot's offering. And if we do that, I'm in agreement that a unanimous vote will carry some weight. But we don't know what they're going to propose. We don't know what we're objecting to or supporting.
Well, would it matter what they propose if you could just make your statement and see what they do with it?
Well, so, Mayor, you have discussion and motion is on the floor.
I know I haven't said a lot yet, so I've been taking all this in, but so I agree that on the same page with Councilmember Moses. So we have a position that's not changed. I don't oppose that. I still support that because that is the city position. I am hesitant to go to a vote under what has been presented tonight, so that I'm not comfortable with that. But it does not mean that I don't support the current city position.
Can I have a reaffirmation of just that? Is it possible to have a reaffirmation saying, once again, this council is endorsing what the previous council recommended?
That's what the motion is.
Let's get a second.
No, it's just a explanation.
I know we got a vote coming, but we're still under discussion. Would it be beneficial if the entire council unanimously agreed to issue a directive to have our city attorney affirm our position with text out rather than motion and vote?
Sounds like a very thoughtful suggestion of an amendment to the motion.
If you
If it
give,
would be a
you would
friendly
choose to
amendment.
withdraw your motion.
Okay, so you would like,
I'd like to issue a unanimous directive from the council for our city attorney to contact TxDOT and just confirm that nothing has changed. Our previous letter that was sent to TxDOT stands. So that.
I agree with that, Ed, because that allows us to keep our powder dry until we have something to shoot at. And when we have, or not, when they have their house, then we can stand together and take action that will have an impact. So then it's just.
I want it whispered to TxDOT, but you don't want anything in writing.
It'll be in the meeting minutes.
Well, it's already in writing, sir. It's already in writing.
Would you modify your
I
motion?
mean, I think so. I mean, essentially,
There would be no motion, and one of us would issue the directive, and the rest of the council would. Sound good? We could try it. I could try to issue the directive, and then you guys can think about
Yeah,
it.
I go back to just that ETJ issue. Why would we insist that it's out of the ETJ? It's likely gonna be outside of the ETJ. Why do we say we do not want any control over it?
You could modify this, you do what you like, but you can modify this motion by agreement. That motion and second vote. Council, we want you to attorney for the city, we want you to communicate to TxDOT that the January 10, 24 resolution has not changed.
That's
it.
Until further notice.
Upon consideration, it's not changed.
Does it make any
That's
sense?
school.
Does it make any sense to be able to say at least one council member is concerned if it's intentionally outside of the ETJ?
Well, as our letter says, you may hear from individual members of council that elaborate their own positions. Those individuals, that's their position, and that's fine. Actually, it's ironic that the one comment that was made mirrors exactly what we talked about in our original communication to TxDOT. This is a vote of the city by council. You may hear it from individuals, etc., but it's not binding upon the city.
I like the directive idea. I'm just not sure why we insist that we have absolutely zero control of fiberglass plant.
What we're saying is.
Well, I think the point is, you're not,
So, what, let's get a handle on it. I don't know where you are.
I will edit my motion.
Okay, so to direct the.
Which is technically withdraw your motion. To withdraw your motion.
I like it here until further notice.
Okay.
I don't.
So,
Okay. Now,
floor is yours, Mr. Moses.
with the motion withdrawn, I'd like to issue an official directive to our city attorney to contact TxDOT, reaffirm our stance on the possible bypass is mirroring our previous letter until further notice.
So,
no objection from council.
yeah, I'd like to, well, let's do it this way. I'd like to affirm that everybody agrees with that. That way it's stronger. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
You agree with that?
Yes, it's not.
And you, okay, so there's your unanimous. This is the best way we can get unanimous tonight.
Just
We're
one
saying-
comment until further notice. Because once we've got.
That goes without saying, you can always change your mind.
That's right. You can always change your mind.
Thank you. The item is closed. We're moving on. Number 11, consideration and discussion of sufficient community development block grant. Downtown revitalization. Mr. Estes.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Our whole council is,
Good job. Councilman Moses, thank you.
Who seconded that?
Wasn't a motion.
Okay. Yeah.
And it
I do
Yeah.
So Mayor, we're ready, item number 11, well, that was a long night, TDA downtown revitalization.
Quiet, please.
That public comment, y'all.
Downtown revitalization program, as we talked before, we're working at trying to get funding for downtown. And this is a program that last year got awarded $500,000. This year, they've increased it up to $1 million, which would include, the downtown district, sidewalks, streets, possible utilities. A lot of the things that we've been discussing. This is, even though this is CDBG, which is a little bit different than like the one we got for the generator or for the lift station. So that would not actually stop us from getting another CDBG grant at a later time. We've been working with, of course, we would still have to still have to actually approve it and go through the process of applying and then awarding it to one of our grant writers, and then there will be that process that we normally do. We normally would not need to get permission from council to go out to these programs and do the starting portion of it. However, the reason why I am bringing this to you is because there's going to be a match amount that has not been released yet. So next month we'll know a lot more. This will come back to council in February or March when we look at actually applying. But the match last year was $75,000 at $500,000. The grant writer we've been working with believes it'll be about 75 or 100. So one of the things we do want to mention is while it probably would be approved before our next budget year, the payment or the match wouldn't happen this year. So what that would allow us to do is, for example, we were awarded $1 million for specific things in the downtown district. We would have to have $100,000 match, but it would give us, the council, the ability to actually fund that match and actually make sure that we have money in the budget. So it would be the next year's budget. That's the reason I'm bringing to you now, so that, and I will let you know, we do have 2 rainy day funds. I just got numbers from our finance department. We have approximately $272,000 in general fund, and approximately $302,000, which will up a little bit, in the enterprise. So it may be something that you can take from both, because this would be a combination of sidewalks and utilities and that sort of thing. The reason why we're reading it now is because there will be a match with this, but I think questions of staff.
I do agree. So would we take action to approve the application for this in the February meeting? That's your suggestion?
Yes, the suggestion is when we bring it back, that you approve it then, but it's now just let you know that we have to start looking at the match and make sure that we're funding next year's budget.
Will that give us time to apply for that grant between February and March when it's due?
They will. They haven't even given us the 2025 application. Only 24 is not shown on it. So if you actually look at what she said, you're only looking at all that. It should have it running.
And if we're not able to get the match, what happens if we get the grant and match?
We would have to show that we have the funds for the match. Now,
We have to do it in order to get it.
Now, I believe some of the match could be in-kind services. So it may not be the full 100 or full 75. There may be a portion that you do, waive fees, things like that.
Thanks.
Do we have slum or blight conditions in our downtown? And it says it's for the purpose of it is to eliminate slum conditions. I'm just curious what that means.
And I don't know. I mean,
compared to
the answer, this is a grant, and there's a lot of time commitment doing it, and there are certain specific things. The problem that we usually have with most grants is that this community is no longer qualifies for the low moderate income. This is not one of those. So you're right, David, there may be some things we don't qualify, but the grant writer thinks that we might. So we'll have
A couple of pictures of the sidewalks out there.
I can point out some properties too. if you need some pictures. Okay, so it's.
You don't have to know this side of this. We'll proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. Any, moving on, old business number one, this is, engineering company, right, SPI?
Yes, sir. And the things that we did, I think Tim talked a little bit about it. First of all, looks like they brought the whole crew here. We're really happy that SPI.
Welcome to our service.
I'm sure the our meeting, they just love that idea, but one of the things that they
The last engineer billed us like a couple of dollars an hour to sit there and see nothing, so. Hope you're not.
We're happy.
Okay.
I'm getting it for free.
You guys better.
And the only offside
Anytime.
is we did negotiate a task order addition. If you look at the hours, I think a majority of them will be project manager costs, either one, I'm not looking at the numbers now, but I think it's about 160 or 185. I think there's two numbers, and there's lower numbers, the higher numbers, depending on, but the majority is going to be, it's going to be close to what our previous engineer was, but the task order system will make it so that council has much more control over the monthly spending.
Excellent.
Yes, sir. And you reviewed it in your file.
Yes, I'm fine with it. I will say, however, we're probably, the first task order will probably, not for tonight, but the first task order will probably encompass a set of sort of some of the recurring things you do. Because we don't want to be coming in with 3,000 task orders for every little minutiae item. But I salute the concept they put forward. I think it's going to be very helpful and recommend this contract. There's a few minor details in the contract I'd like your authority to go work out and get resolved in the best interest of the city. Having done this for 37 years in the contract. But the key features are there's a mediation dispute resolution process, task force, Blanco County. If we ever get into a dispute, it's in Blanco County at your discretion. And you got good, trustworthy engineers. So all excited for you.
I want to introduce yourself and your folks.
Mayor Council, Jerry Jerks, I'm the community relations person for SPI. With me here, I have John Skelton, Steve, not Steve. John Skelton, he's our project manager, and Nikki Bose, who's with us for like a couple weeks now, just back from the Disney cruise. Is our new office manager, and these guys make sure the ship goes straight, make it done how it's supposed to.
So who's going to be our primary?
I'll be your primary point of contact. I just want to say I'm really excited to have this opportunity because previous to working in consulting, I did spend 10 years working for various cities. I'll be honest, they were up in Minnesota. I'm from the north, but I empathize and your concern about budget and what do we need to do versus what maybe some engineer wants you to do. So I appreciate that, and I understand being on that side. I'm excited now to work with you guys on your projects and your needs. So,
Can you tell me your name again?
oh, John Schmidt.
Josh.
Can you spell the last name?
Oh, yes. SCHMELING.
Where do you live now?
Well, I live in Kyle and I work at our Kyle office.
Down the road.
Yeah. I've lived in Kyle for the last 3 years, so.
Yeah, just watch out for our bottom line. That was the main complaint about the previous outfit was money's no object because it was our money. It wasn't, they were just everything had more zeros on the end than it should have. They had, for example, had put forward a change order as well plant for a 2-inch force main for $70,000. That was what they put forward on the agenda. I pulled it, I got it done for a 4-inch force main for $20,000.
Nice.
Well, but I don't know why the engineers push you through stuff that's $50,000 too expensive on a job like that. So I would say, I hope you stick around a long time, and if you watch our dollars and take care of us, well, you'll be here for a long time as far as I'm concerned.
So we work with a lot of small cities and big good stewards of your tax.
That was the reason we switched. So, yeah.
And Alan Ross sends his regards. He's contacted the Candy Business team to be excited also. Dan Parker.
3 hours of fun.
Did we set aside an allowance for the CMAC committee, or will they be working with the task order system as well?
Everybody's
I didn't know if we set aside a couple of hours a month.
It's that transfer system, we got our bill down real quick.
Might come, that's what I was kind of alluding to earlier, we might come with their approval, of course, and their input with a subset task order that picks up a collection of individual tasks on a recurring basis or not, that might support CMAC or other things as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions on any of it? I know there's a few details you need to work out still.
Not anything significant. We got a great contract.
Yes. Any more questions?
We're in Minnesota.
We're in the south suburb of Minneapolis. It's sort of like Kyle is to us.
But much colder, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you brought this cold with you.
I'm used to the heat now.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll move that we approve the contract between the city of Blanco and SPI.
What details we worked out?
Subject to
With
details.
Okay, so approve the contract with subject to details worked out, approved by, seconded by Bobby. All in favor? All right, then unanimous.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you all. Look forward to working with you.
That's what that's for.
Next, contract city DC three.
Thank you, Mayor. I think you awarded this, council awarded this to, EC3.
This is the
Right, yes, sir. And, something that the chief and I looked at, I think the real reason to hire them was cybersecurity, public safety. That's a real big issue. A lot of experience with that. And so, Tim, we can review the contract and we're fine with it. Questions?
The contract's not in here, is it?
You're happy with it?
Yes, I'm just waiting for CJIS security to get back with me.
She can go too.
I'm just waiting for the security DPS CJIS commission to get back with me to approve them as a vendor, but they're already approved for like 15 other cities and.
So they already know the CJIS stuff and they're already.
Right, but I still have to.
Very experienced.
Well, I still have to submit it to the committee for them to approve. That's just a.
Every city.
Yeah, it's actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Their motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Okay. Give a second. Okay, all in favor? Woo-hoo. Last thing on old business, TikTok ban.
Let's do it. No discussion.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to motion that we approve the ordinance policy banning TikTok on government issued phones or devices.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Woo, give it up. All right.
How's that for government officials? Okay, very good. We're going to close the portion of the meeting, meeting to executive session. All right. If you want to hang around, we'll come back eventually. Yeah, I'm sorry, 9.